Coach Buff podcast. You have myself, Knives here per usual. No evil. This guy's MIA doing his own thing. And we have a wonderful featured guest today, Psykho. Psykho, how are you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's been a crazy day for me at the start. Been working on a lot of content related things, but hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for the invite. Can't wait to sort of explain sort of the Psycho lore, and I can't wait to sort of explain my philosophies on coaching, why I got into Apex in particular, and being able to just share a piece of me, which I haven't really done before. I've been coaching Apex Legends for about 4 or 5 years now at this particular point. Started off with the just playing like normal. My elementary school friend introduced it to me and everything like that, and I didn't think it necessarily would become a career later down the line, but it sort of did. But so far, my achievements are third in the world, behind TSM and Dark Zero at my highest peak in my career. I'd also co-authored the Imperial Hal Bootcamp when Imperial Hal was sort of setting up things with pro guides. And then I also have coached teams in pretty much every single region, with the exception of APAC North. So EMEA, APAC South, North America. And yeah, no, it's been a crazy ride, and I'm just thrilled to have been part of the entire community and being able to sort of spread my philosophy and my message all the way through. So yeah, thank you guys for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
Super excited to have you.
Yeah. So, all right.
Super hyped.
Yeah, This is another episode that I've been excited for. Although we have a lot of people on Knives. We just gotta wait for all this land stuff to go away. That being said, per usual in the podcast, we go over our little updates on ourselves. So I'm going to let Knives go first because he's got some cool news for everyone. A little huge update on his part. I might start crying in like 10 seconds.
Okay, so recently, last episode, I was kind of up in the air about everything. I just left status quo. Then I was kind of up in the air working with Panic as a coach and player duo. He was just kind of bringing me along with all the teams he was trialing with and working with. I don't know where he stands right now, so I'm just kind of letting him do his thing. But I got a huge offer from a really great team in Apex South. So I've been working with those guys. Absolutely phenomenal dudes. They're, lack of better words, they're insane. I mean, we've just been steamrolling, and we're only improving. So we're steamrolling and getting better. So I'm really confident with that team going into PSQs. And another extra spicy one I didn't announce in the prelims here before we got started, but I got a collegiate offer too.
Okay.
Paid
collegiate offer. There we go.
Paid collegiate offer is perfect. That's exactly what you want.
So I got some work during the day and work during the night with Apex South.
Nice. Nice.
Very, very hyped. Finally got some work going after the long stingent of doing nothing.
Doing everything for nothing. You know what I mean? Like I get exactly that feeling, right? Just like you're sitting there, you're watching the game, you're looking at the game, you're theorizing this, you're playing it, you're doing this, you're doing that, but no opportunity quite yet, right? So that definitely can like hurt a little bit of hurt some of the ethic maybe and the motivation and whatnot. So congrats to you and getting the collegiate offer, so that way you can kind of have some sustainability and hopefully everything works well with your APAC team too.
Oh yeah, no, they're a great set of dudes, really low key, and apparently they got some clout out there in Apex South. They know all the pro league guys, and we might be picking up someone special here along the way as well, but that I cannot leak.
Oh my gosh, this guy has secrets every episode. Every episode, this guy has secrets. Makes me sick. No sauce.
Sorry.
Gives no sauce.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
The formula, just no sauce. He ain't giving it.
It's sensitive information, but hopefully we can get it squared away by the time PSQ start up. So
that's great.
Huge. Great. Very excited. Very excited to say the least. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I'm genuinely very glad to hear that. Everybody, kind of deserves a chance and an opportunity to do stuff, especially when they're working hard. So congrats to you.
Yeah, this is my first international team too. So.
That's
something
crazy.
Wild. Something wild.
It is pretty far out there.
Yeah,
very rarely do coaches do that. Yeah.
Yeah, scrimming at 2:30 in the morning is definitely a
devious
time
work.
Change for me.
Devious work. Devious work. Again, the Aussies are scrimming at 2:30 in the morning. You got waiting for them to Oh man, that's
Yeah,
good stuff.
yeah. Scrim at 2:30 in the morning and VOD review at 6 a.m. and I'm going to bed at 7. So it's great.
Nice, very.
Anyways, I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, for me,
What's in the world of? Oh my God,
throwing the webcam again. Holy.
that was wild as fuck.
All right, that's the start of a blooper reel.
I got attacked.
You
Right, go
did.
ahead.
Whole,
I'll let that,
whole camera jumped at you. Third partied, if you will.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a Super Bowl reference. I'm thinking that thing went across the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was a first. And it had to be
First and 10
Psykho.
for sure. First and 10 for sure. For
Absolutely.
myself, I am LFTing. Freaky Apex has disbanded. My North American Padawans have left the Jedi Temple in search of great power and not understanding to not challenge the high ground, Anakin. So I currently still working with the EMEA team. Designated half assist with Evil, Kryzen, Jelly, and Juicy. Still working with those guys as the micro and team fighting coordinator, whatever you want to call that I specialize in. Honestly, you get macro, and then there's just Unruly, who teaches people how to fight in 3v3s. So working with those guys still. Doing commission work. If you guys, any viewers, are watching, I am opening up my books to commission work, whether that be VOD review, sitting in your scrims, working with your team fighting, pretty much any of the sauce. DM me, we can set up a session. Otherwise, I am still looking for a team and trialing to get some Pro League teams in North America, because I prefer not to switch my schedule and be as crazy as Knives over there, getting up at 2:30 for Sirims. That's kind of crazy, but more power to him for that. I just wait for the EMEA boys to yell at me at noon. Unfortunately, Freaky Apex, they all went their separate ways. They got some good offers. Some made some good teams. I'm just the side coach that's left out. Anyway,
at the end of the day,
story.
you'll get your opportunity.
We'll get
It'll
there.
come. It'll come through. We just got to keep working hard, keep our eye on the ball. Always just be striving for something. Any team. I mean, any DM that can be sent, any shot that can be taken, just always take it, because at the end of the day, you never know what you're going to get out of it. I'd rather take every chance I get to do something and hopefully maybe get something out of it. Even if I didn't, just think about like how much effort we're putting into what. Don't put all the eggs in one basket type of thing. But I know you got that.
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten a full-time commission team. Nothing announced officially, but the Intelligence Gaming roster, I am now as a commissioned coach for them. But gotta dabble in the cookie jar for them pro teams. I love trials. I had an EEC trial back in the day, but other than that, that's the only thing I've gotten my foot touching the water of Pro League. But anyways, that's my update for myself. Now this is the part where we get to all attack Psykho and pick his brain. But first, Psykho. Who is Psykho? Give us the lore.
So that's a good question. So, the bottom line about me is this, okay? I played the game for a long time. I basically got into coaching because I had great coaches of my own, from G7 Dolphin to, Wacko, Reciprocity back then. And, I added up all the playing time and all the coaching time that I had, and I wanted to pay that forward. I went to school for business entrepreneurship, and, I worked at a cable company. I worked at, like your local GameStop. I did all those things when I was younger, but I always had the work ethic to do something, and I wanted to figure out sort of what it was. And when I got around to Apex and everything being introduced to me, the one thing that came about was that I do love helping people, right? But what way do you work with that? How do you maintain that? How does it make any sense? Whatnot, right? And the way I see it is, the world is a bigger place than just you or I or what you and I think. And I think everybody deserves a chance to feel good in the world, to flourish in it, to be able to feel like somebody has their back. Everybody deserves some form of love and a desire to be able to do something. I've never really hated anybody in my life. I don't think I'll ever. But the big thing that I can say is, for me, I love paying forward everything that I have learned and being able to also compete at the highest level for that and showcase that what I had learned and what the things that I always am trying to do pays off too. So whether it's somebody individually that I coach or whether it's a competitive team, I want to, of course, win. I want it to do well. I want all the success that I can bring to myself and my team. But the biggest reason I do this all is because I want everybody who touches Apex in whatever way, shape, or form to enjoy it, to love it, to be part of our community and feel welcomed in it.
That's awesome.
Phenomenally said. Beautiful.
That is
beautiful
beautiful.
stuff.
That being said, that's awesome. Paying it forward. That's what a lot of coaches, in my opinion, just love to help people. A lot of, especially up and coming coaches, like, we just. Knives was just mentioning, a paid gig, but those are few and far between at the beginning, because you either have to prove yourself or work for it, or those opportunities even have to be there, because people are still trying to take this scene and esports seriously. So it's good stuff, and that's really awesome to hear.
No, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's always been me. Whether you see an interview that I do, because I've done a few like on stage and whatnot, you'll always see me kind of crediting my players for XYZ. This player did this player did that, or you always see me sort of give credit to those who sort of work on things. I myself, I would say one of my like biggest weaknesses, I'm a big perfectionist. I work really hard, and even for me, sometimes it's hard to acknowledge an accomplishment, even if it's great. And that's just because I'm always striving for more for myself in order to learn and to grow and to use every experience the best that I can. Anytime even something feels out of my control, I'm always looking for what could I control in the situation? Maybe what could I have done differently? Because at the end of the day, if I'm chasing success, whether that's winning a trophy at LAN, whether that's being able to showcase, hey, I have these individual clients and now they're pred and they're loving the game or whatever, or it's teaching that granddad or that father how to play Apex so that we can play with his son, right? Everybody deserves to enjoy this game and be able to flourish in it. But at the end of the day, I mean, just to kind of give an example of like even like how that started for me, as you said, like these paid gigs are far and in between. How do you start? How do you get there? And as I was mentioning earlier, I had a friend that introduced me to Apex in elementary school, and I was just going through life, and I had certain coaches and people sort of work with me and whatnot, so that way I could learn the game. My first ever client, I went to Reddit. Kid you not, Reddit. I'm pretty sure I could probably find it to this day if I really was looking for it. And I went to Reddit, and I went into like a Loba mains Reddit, because at that point I'm just loving that character. Everything's going well. It's like season like 5 or 6 or something like that. And I saw a person wanted to get coached, to learn how to play Loba. At that point, I've learned some of the fundamentals of the game that are necessary: inventory, utility, sort of like those basic important things. And obviously I did really well on the character, so I'm like, this works for me. So I coached that person. I still know that person to this day. The day one student that I worked for, multiple sessions for free. And I said, this has created good impact on this student. He's performing well. He's loving the game and everything in between. And I said, hey, I'm out of college. My startup at whatever point, after that, didn't work out the way that I wanted to. So I'm in this transition point. Do I go back to school? Do I work? Do I do whatever? And basically I said, what if I just charge $5, $10 to do this, right? Just to see what comes out of it, right? So there's a site that I'm sure you guys might know of. It's really not designed for coaching by any means, but it's called ePal. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
So definitely not the place that is designed for coaching. I'll leave that point there. But basically, I went on there, and I started to coach more people. $5, $10, 15, and I accumulated a lot of reviews of people that loved what I was doing, and it was taking effect and shape on them. And even at that point, I'm still playing the game. I still am even hired coaches of my own, just to learn certain things, just to really deliver what I'm looking for. And after sort of getting that chapter underway, Pro Guides introduced Apex Legends as a game, and they had done a master class with Snipe Down that was recorded and everything like that. And so I had watched that. I'm playing the game more, still getting introduced to that stuff. And I thought this is awesome. Let me take my shot at getting into Pro Guides at this point. Probably won't end well, but I'm gonna shoot it. And I did it. And one of the people that I ended up being introduced to was like top 200 pred or whatever, and I was having him coach me on whatever, and I was doing 1v1s or whatnot with him, and I completely destroyed him. Like he didn't win like one at that point. And I'm just like the lowly like Diamond 3 player or whatever, right? At that point. So, and I'm still, I'm still learning and doing whatever. So I then got entered into Pro Guides. I think it's just because I didn't have a lot of people for Apex, and I said, hey, let's do our best here and let's have a good time with it. So at that point, then I'm coaching on Pro Guides, and this time I can charge more, $25, $30 for what I'm doing. And even when you charge more, I'm always thinking about the value. What am I getting in value? Just a sidetrack there. I've had people like just rumors in the background just say something along the lines of like, yeah, this guy paid Psycho $200 to like learn how to slide jump, and I'm like, where is this coming from, right? Like, I'm like, where is this coming from, right? And or people that are like, hey, like, he knows nothing about this input or that thing. I watched like one video or whatever, and I just don't like him or what he has to stand for. But they'll critique 1/4 of the video rather than the other 3/4, right? At the end of the day, and I had somebody tell me, like, I think the same person tell me, hey, like, you could get sued for scamming people about telling this and that, the other thing. I'm like, this is a debated topic, and B, I did the research for it. I'm not gonna give somebody something for no reason, right? So that kind of pains me a little bit, because it's not like I don't work hard or try to get the information or whatnot. So charge the $25. I'm like, is this the rate that's gonna make sense and whatnot? So I did charge that, and I had many students leave reviews on that too. I still have all my Medify reviews, all my Pro Guides reviews, all my EPAL reviews, sitting somewhere if I ever want to like look at them. And rarely did I have somebody say like I didn't come out of here with value, and if they did, and I didn't really have that, I'd like, fortunate for me, right? I would have just given them their money back because it's just not what I'm about. And so that Pro Guides thing, it ends up leading into the Imperial Hal boot camp, and people pay $250 or so to attend this boot camp that Imperial Hal is supposed to kind of make. And I'm like, there's no way like I could like do anything with this or whatever. But I'll attend it if I'm allowed to. I'm part of the brand. Maybe that'd be helpful. And they were like, yeah, we're looking for people to write it, to work within it, to grab whatever's necessary to work it. And I'm like, just raising my hand over here, right? And shot my shot. I got picked for it, right? So I worked with 2 other people as well as some senior leadership over at Pro Guides who had made like the snipe down course, with Eric. And they basically were like, here's the thing. We're gonna make this Imperial Hal boot camp. People, pay to learn from, Imperial Hal, not necessarily from you guys or anything like that, but you gotta translate what Hal does and how he does it into whatever. And at that point, that's a lot of pressure. We have to do the right thing. And it's crazy because one of the leaders, how we described this course, how he described this course? He said, this course is like we're flying a plane, but the plane in the middle of the air is on fire and we're going to have to land it. And so it's like, wait, and it's like, why? Well, the reason why is because when we had started with the boot camp and how it was timed and everything and how they did it because of Hal's schedule and because of the schedule of the leadership and everything, it was, a couple of weeks before Pro League or whatever. So things needed to be done really fast. And we only had like half of it done, even though we were selling it and we were going into, we only had like half of it done. So we're having to like work through the other half, or we're having to write a bunch of text. We have to put a bunch of images in. We gotta do everything. I'll maybe see if I can find even just the master doc here, because there's a master document on the course. See if I can get that up and screen share it for you. It's like 200 pages or something crazy. So
That's insane.
it's like, and this is just, again, we're just talking about the writing. We had to get images, we had to get video. I mean, this here, it's on the other side of my screen. Right there, kind of 147 pages, as you guys can see. So everything from ADS strafing speed to his preferred loadouts at that time to, what type of inventory management did he have, what to avoid, creating challenges for the student, basically writing it out so we could give the student a look into how, because again, Hal plays the game really well, but he can't fully explain everything. He could look at a VOD and maybe describe it out or whatever, but he's not a teacher. He just can play the game really well and explain things here and there for what he sees it as.
Right.
Versus, us, we're teachers. We're able to do the game, but also explain it really well. And that's great. I mean, so at the end of the day, we made something like this, and it was a lot of work. So the decision-making modules, for example, as I said, like where he's doing the VOD reviews and he's doing this and he's doing that, weren't even done by the time we're selling it. So we're literally flying a plane and trying to land it while it's on fire. So that, thankfully, it worked out well. It had sort of mixed reviews at the end. But that's a lot of work, and just doing that alone and why this matters towards the journey, like bottom line for this chapter of it, I got $5,000 for doing this.
That's awesome.
So that, in comparison to maybe what Hal made, it's not that much, but hey, it's money. It's on the table there. So it makes you think, can I do this? What can I really do? Right?
Exactly.
I coached maybe like two, tier 2 competitive teams at that point, in a Qualix with Darkside, who you've interviewed at this particular point already. But it's one of those things where simply I'm like, how far can I really take this? Next thing you know, we have Jay Savage, who I think is number 1 Predator, whatever, right now, who is a French player, very popular French player. And he was looking for a coach for Reply Totem, which was him, Sharp, and Amaz. So 2 French players, 1 Italian player. And sorry, it's funny sidetrack before this point. I had coached, so one of the tier 2 teams I coached there, since you're talking about APAC earlier, I coached a team in APAC called Bear Claw. And the thing was about it, though, I didn't necessarily pick the players. So there's a pattern. If I pick the players, everything goes well. If I don't pick the players, things are a little iffy. So I'll talk about that as we go. But basically, the summary of that is I had a player that spoke English, a player that spoke a language that is obviously spoken in Thailand, not coming to my mind right now. And
Indonesian or
probably something like that. But he basically didn't speak English, and then I had a player that could speak both that language and English. So, in other words, trying to communicate to this team and trying to coach them,
Right.
I have a player that understands absolutely nothing of what I'm saying, right? Like nothing. So it was an interesting thing, but we got them into because again COVID time, we actually got them into a major event. I think it was a championship or whatever in APAC, despite that issue. So really awesome thing there. But yeah, so we in Reply Totem and whatnot, and I'll show sort of the leaderboards throughout that Pro League time. So when I first started coaching Reply Totem, it was like after their first Pro League day. And after their first Pro League day, it was not good. I had like basically a situation where the IGL is arguing with the other 2 teammates, the other 2 teammates arguing with the IGL. What the fuck are you doing? That's stupid. Why did we fly over there? Why did we do this? And it's just chaos. And they can't have a civil conversation about anything. So this was their day 1 performance out of that. 19th. So this is when teams call coaches. They're like, yo, listen, like we need somebody. We're doing terrible right now. Rarely does anybody call a coach when things are going right. You guys know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So you've been through it. Nobody ever calls a coach when things are right. So we go from that, right? And there's a lot of big issues there, right? And it's stupid. It's fundamental, but it's stupid. They weren't playing ranked together. They didn't have a schedule. They weren't VOD reviewing. They didn't have anybody looking at their macro. They didn't even really question their own macro most of the time. And there was a lot to be done. So when I came in, I said, guys, you should play ranked with other people, definitely, so that way you can get your network going and do this and do that. It's awesome. Like, you guys should do it. But the fact you're not even playing ranked together on a tournament day when we're like not going to scrim or something like that is atrocious, right? We can definitely play the game more together to make sure the synergy is there. So that was the first thing I instated and put into the schedule. Then I sort of had the VOD reviews put into the schedule, and then I had like other chats. Like we'd have individual chats like, how's our team doing? How are we progressing? How do we think the meta is shifting? Just meetings and things like that. Then we'd have, time to work on macro. I pull out the maps and we start working, right? And at that point, my macro knowledge, it's there, but it's not all the way there. Neither is my micro. There's things that, like, as much as I understood how the game worked, like, there were times that, for example, like, you guys would know this now at this point, but at the time I just wasn't thinking about it. There's games that you just simply can't win. There's games where you just need to fight on edge and kill everything that's there and then just die, right? Getting all those kills. That wasn't something I necessarily thought of in my head at that point. It sounds so stupid and basic, but it's something that I ended up kind of getting to learn from that particular team after things had kind of taken place and taken shape. But this was their first day of Pro League. Then when you fast forward, right, and how it did, we did a Pro League day where we got 3rd, and then a Pro League day where we got 2nd on the later half. So you go from a team that's 19th on the bottom of the board, right, and you get them to get 2nd, you get them to get 3rd, and then that accumulates to, hey, you know what? At the end of both of our Pro Leagues, right, we essentially end up getting ninth on their first pro league, you know, with me doing things with them. We get ninth. Good. We get to go to a major event online. We do that. Great. Don't place well in that. I think it's like what, not 29th or whatever, but it's like 14th because it's, you know, it's a local region, you know, playoff. And the next thing you know, we get another pro league. We play 6, so 3 points higher than we did before. And then we go to our first LAN. This is my first LAN. It's in Sweden. First LAN that's happening, you know, after COVID and whatnot. Coaches are stuck in a little box, right? We're stuck in a little box. We can't move around. We're stuck in a little box. We don't got comfortable chairs. There was no Herbie Millers or none of that, okay? My bet, like, and I got
at that time we didn't have chairs, right? We didn't even have the chairs at the time, or no? We had the shitty like foldable ones.
Yeah, we had the shitty foldable ones. So we had these shitty foldable chairs, and again, as I said, I got scoliosis. My spine is in the shape of an S at like a 47 fucking degrees or some shit. Okay, that shit hurt. All right, that shit hurt. I didn't like that. So you know, and you're stuck in a box. Again, you can't stand up, you can't move around, you can't do none of that. Thank God later they gave you a giant ass rectangle on the stage. It has tape. As long as you don't, you know, upset the rectangle, you're all right. You know. You know, so basically, you know, we go into that LAN together, my first LAN, and we're not doing as well as I want to, but we're triple M and K at that time. At that point, it's at least one controller player in the meta. Okay, it's Ash, Gibby, Valkyrie, and you know, Jay Savage loves his wingman, for example, at that moment, which he freaking awesome, like most accurate wingman player I've ever seen. And basically, you know, we went into that LAN, and it wasn't necessarily something that I would expect, you know, that we do fully well in, but we were gonna try, damn it. Like there was a point where, you know, we were getting contested by Old Luminosity, triple controller, right? And which is now Team Liquid Alienware. Yep. Triple controller. We were contesting them on launch site. Yeah, that's not happening, right? So then I had to figure out, you know, where do we land? You know, how does that work? So I went to every single team in that LAN, booth to booth. Where are you landing? Where is this happening? And I plotted it on the map so that each group we could find a free POI. That team was not ready to contest. We were not going to be able to do that. As much as I really wanted to, that was not something I was prepared to do, nor something they were prepared to do. So I went to every single team, you know, from PvPs at the time, you know, all the way to, you know, whoever was on TSM or whatever at the time. I went everywhere. I went to every single team on the backstage to understand what was happening, where people were landing, how it was going to play out, so that way I can find a free spot for my team. And that was tough. I'll find the whole playbook here too, because that also exists. And so, you know, after doing that and everything, what ends up happening is we end up going all the way, triple M&K, you know, team that nobody's ever heard of from Italy, blah, 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 blah. We end up in losers bracket number 2. In losers bracket number 1, we won our last game, and that's what put us in losers bracket number 2. Then when we were in losers bracket number 2, we didn't do so well the rest of our games, but we actually won that last game too. So the last game of our losers bracket, even though we didn't qualify into finals, we won that last game. So if we're winning 2 games in both these losers bracket towards the end, what does that tell you? What does that show you? First team I ever work with in a LAN in Sweden, have no idea how some of these things work, but I worked hard to understand what I did, and I worked hard to make sure the team was successful. And that's what always matters to me. How can I make my team the most successful with the cards that I have? And people, they're only going to see the teams that win. They're only going to see the teams that, you know, place well. They're only going to see the teams from a certain region because that's their fans of a certain region. But if they really knew how hard that, you know, that unknown team that nobody ever heard of worked, they would maybe think otherwise. But this is our entire playbook right here. I had all the teams laid out and sort of where they were going in the groups. And I was sort of mapping out like what went where, how it went. See right here, SSG, you know, Reply Totem and Cloud9, right? This is PvP. I know that he's going here. I didn't know if SSG was going to go here yet. So I'm like, maybe we can test it, maybe we don't, right? And these are choices that had to be made. These are choices that had to be made. These are things that had to be done. And I had to map all this out. And even when I went to that LAN, everything was cursed. Like I was in a room where it was next to like the laundry room, so everything smelled, right? Like everything, the whole room smelled, right? So that was fun. And you know, and the other thing too, you know, about that again, like the uncomfortable chairs, the boxes, everything. And what was the other issue that I ran into? There was another. Oh, none of my technology worked. I brought my laptop from Italy where we boot camped all the way to Sweden. Didn't work. Didn't wait. I literally left, and when I left, it worked. Right. My phone, I had a Chromecast, and I was trying to plug into the TVs. The TVs wouldn't let me do that, so I couldn't do reviews of any kind. I couldn't get any of the footage from that LAN. I didn't have the ability to actually look at how the hell we were doing and be able to fix it. And even if I wanted to, some of the players genuinely didn't want to. So I'm fighting every battle. I don't have a manager there, so I can't keep certain things in check. Like, I can only do certain things. I can only make my players do certain things. I'm not head coach. I can't do certain things. And we're kind of, our synergy is sort of downgrading at that particular point, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. But in the end of the day, first LAN, I won games in that LAN, and second losers bracket that almost had a chance to make finals, a team that nobody ever heard of. And what do you guys think?
I mean, that's just resilience, and hard work eventually pays off right there. I mean, you do what you had to do with the cards that you had in play, and you just shuffle them up into what you needed in order to get it done. So I mean, for a first time big coaching position, I would say. From 19th in Pro League to two top 10s in Pro League into making a LAN appearance into almost a finals run. I mean, that's hard work.
That's hard work, and you know what it was for? It was for the fact that I wanted to do it. But at the end of the day, $500 a month. That was it. For an EMEA team that went to LAN. Yep. And even when I did Bear Claw, right, and we made that online championship or whatever, I saw $50 maybe out of all that, right? So I didn't do it though because of the monetary amount. I did it because I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to be able to prove what I could do.
Right.
And even after this event though, right? Even after this event, you would think like I'd feel, maybe you'd think I'd feel happy. Maybe you think I'd feel that I did well. For a moment, I did. And then I didn't. And
there's always more.
There's always more to be done. So, at that point, I felt like I was probably done with competitive and whatnot. And then I went over to Spire Academy and whatnot. So, I'm sitting there. I had a conversation the day prior or whatever. I had a conversation with my mom, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. The pressure of this, it's hard to find an opportunity. I don't want to, sit here and be broke. Like I hate this, right? Like this, like I love this, but I hate this. And I need to, and if I can't find something that's going to be well off in the next, couple of weeks, month or so, I'm done. And she looked at me and she said, kid, like you just went, none of us have been to Europe, you just went to the places in Europe that we wanted to be in for a long time. You went to Italy. You know how bad I wanted to go to Italy, kid, but we've just never been able to afford it. You've done so well. You had done this, you had done that. Don't let this stop you. And, obviously at that moment, you think to yourself, maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. And, I just proceed. So there was one night I went on Hitmarker, the site where you find esports jobs and everything. Mm-hmm. And there was a job for Spire Academy and whatnot. The first time I actually tried to apply for it, the website didn't work. And I was like, whatever, missed opportunity. And I'm in my doom and gloom mindset at that point. And then, I said, what, the next day, I'll try it tomorrow. Tried it, the next day or two or whatever, and it worked. Then, I went in, I gave my sales pitch, I competed against another coach, and I ended up getting technically two kids, a scholarship to Spire Academy, which is a private, high school in Ohio that does like things with athletes that go to the Olympics at some point.
Right.
So, I did stuff with that, and we were working through what we were working through. And it was a good job. Like they took my taxes out for me. They paid me really well. The leader that I was there with, sure, he didn't know everything about Apex, but he hired the guy that did. He's the type of guy that's like, if I don't know how to do something, I'm gonna get that guy that does, right? Mm-hmm. And I could appreciate that type of leadership. And he was like, what do you need? Do you need money? Do you need gear? Whatever. And he would buy the kids whatever they needed, whatever they wanted, because he believed in our success. And so, let me see here. I'm not sure if I should give volume to it or not. I'll sort of just show it for now, and then if we want volume at some point, I can always add to it. But essentially, like, this is, as you can see right here, like, we got, awesome tryhard right in this lobby. We got, a few, like, we got Meowdy in here. Like, these are like big names for the
Yeah.
Uvoski. We got teams that at the time, are holding #1 pred, that are like rankers and whatnot, and yet we have a ragtag, 3 kids. Brains aren't even developed yet. 3 kids that I go in and I coach, and I'm like, guys, we do this, we do that, we work on this, we work on that. This is how you want to work on M&K. This is how you want to deal with your controller. This is who's going to IGL. This is why, blah, 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 blah. And we're over here in esports arena, winning games against some of the good teams that are tier 2 at that time, right? And that's like one of the things that gets shared around, and everybody's proud of what we've done and whatnot. And of course, politics take place and everything like that. And at a certain point, and this is where Evil is going to want to probably, ask his questions about the old glitch roster, because we're getting there. And like, and like the thing was, we do well in the esports arena thing, and we sort of move through it. But at this point, I'm thinking in my head, like, as much as coaching kids is great, I'm getting paid well for it, and things are going on that are well, I want to get back in the league. I want to get back in the league because I know for a fact, if I go back in the league knowing what I know right now, I could kick ass in a LAN. I could kick ass in a pro league. I can do it, right? So next thing you know, Glitch Energy has a challenger circuit team at that point. It's Batchy, Soupy, Lambic, right? I'm sure you guys remember that, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And so basically what ends up happening is Thornton Smash, who's a manager at the time for that Glitch roster, comes over to me, and because Spire's competing in CC and so was Glitch. And sometimes we'd be like neck and neck. It'd be like for one of the rounds we're second place and Glitch is like first or something, right? And the other thing is PvP, thank his soul. After I did my LAN and Thornton went to go look around, because Thornton picked all the members of the team, and he also picked the coach. So one of the coaches after Petty Boss, he asked PvP, who should I put in the spot? It was Raven. It was Psykho. And that's because how I showed my excitement when we would win on LAN stage, when I would do all the work that I do, PvP noticed part of that at least. And that's why he vouched for me to Thornton. So all those things, kind of leveled up. And Thornton, there was issues, there were players on the team, not going to name specific names because, that's not my spirit of things by any means. Because I believe, and this is, I'll be very, very clear on this. I believe that a team wins and fails based upon the entirety of the team itself.
Oh, 100%.
We win and lose as a collective. Everybody bears some form of responsibility. Anybody else who thinks otherwise, they're tooting the wrong horn, in my opinion. But the case I'm trying to make, or sort of throw around here, the bottom line with this particular piece, Thornton's like, move over to Glitch, we'll give you a contract, whatever, and you'll have a better chance at Pro League. And we do that. The offer in the contract isn't actually initially what I'm looking for. But Thornton takes money out of his own pocket, and I've stated this before in a different interview, so I'm comfortable stating it here. Thornton takes money out of his own pocket, adds it to my salary, the contract, and I just start coaching. I start coaching my little heart out. And that team, there's a lot of issues. I would genuinely say that everything from missing a day. Like there are people that miss days, particularly Lambic, because this is public information now, so it's not like I'm calling anybody out specific that already hasn't been. He missed a day because he has a sleeping disorder, at least he says. And obviously like I don't believe him. Like what am I gonna say? No, right? So at the end of the day, he states that, and he missed a day that they should be playing, and they didn't have a sub in place, so that wasn't put in place, and everybody's upset at that point. Everybody's upset. And so now we're having to look for, a third player, and then we're having to, deal with, who's going to be on what character. I'm having to explain to the team, like, at that moment, what certain metas look like what, and, like, how it's described as. I have a Glitch Energy booklet here, if I can find it. But yeah, I'm essentially trying to explain to everybody there, like, how certain compositions work, and exactly like how we need to look at the game. And so for us, the big issue that we had is even if I explained how the game had to be played and how it had to be looked at and what compositions were what and whatnot, it wasn't connecting the way that I envisioned it, or it wasn't connecting the way that I wanted it. Having trouble finding that booklet there, so I'll leave that be. But I was having trouble kind of connecting with that. And the other thing is too, we would need POIs. I mean, you guys need POIs to be successful. We all know this.
Right.
And that team was not good at contesting whatsoever. It would get mixed match. There'd be issues. There'd be players on that team, for example, where I'm trying to get them to play a certain input because they're already good at that input, and then they're like, in an aggressive, kind of an aggressive but assertive tone, like, don't tell me what input to play. Well, I'm coaching you. I'm trying to help you, right? I know probably what's gonna work for you. Just give me a second for you to try something here, right? And so that team just was a mess, and we ended up having issues later on that we had to try to fix and whatnot. I remember also there was a time where we had everything lined up, but Soupy's PC got fried and it needed to replace a battery in the PC.
Mm-hmm.
And then he couldn't play for a CC or something like that. It was chaos. And so at that point, Matchin particularly is like, you know what, I'm done with this. Peace out. I'm gonna retire, whatnot. And that's respect to him. I mean, the dude flies airplanes. Dude flies airplanes, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Dude flies airplanes. You don't need a trophy. You don't need this money. You don't care about that, right? So dude's flying airplanes, and everybody on that team, like from Lox, who ended up being the third player there, who I love to this day, great player, and Machin and Soupy, funny as hell, love that guy, always have, right?
Great
and
dude.
then I also did like a CC trial with him where he was gonna play on my team at some point too. He was awesome. And then I had what do you call it? Then we had Machin. Obviously, Machin was very mature.
Mm-hmm.
He was very particular about what he wanted to do, and I genuinely think in terms of communication wise, like he had the potential to be a good IGL. Just on that, he had other work to do and whatnot, but overall, he was very mature, very awesome person. Showed up on time, showed up early. Love that guy. He's awesome. So now, at that point, Matcham retires, and CP I think was still having all the PC issues and whatnot, and Glitch is just looking for a different. They're just looking for a different direction. They're like, hey, we want to be the official team of Tampa. We want Tampa to franchise us. Like, I don't know what Call of Duty thoughts they had in their mind, but
That's wild.
I'll run with it. I'll run with it, right? You want to do that? I'll pick you a pro league team. I'll do it. So we interviewed a couple of pro league teams. One of them was later on. So Oxygen picked up a different team as Hill, Crook, and Enemy. You guys remember that,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we talked to them first. Then Oxygen talked to them second, and Oxygen just outbidded Glitch on that one. Because again, and it was because they were gonna go to LAN. I could tell that, and I'm like, Glitch, we need these kids. Like, this is gonna give us your chance to do what you want to do. And so they move over to Oxygen. We don't get them. So then, one of the other teams that I end up interviewing would be our Demons, right?
Mm-hmm.
No Chow, right? Asterix. And so, but yeah, no, like, so we get Aiden, we get Reeds, we get Vane, right? And you guys tell me. I mean, what was your look at that Glitch roster when it existed and when it was also Oxygen? I mean, what did you guys see from the outside in?
I'll let you run with this
Definitely
one.
Definitely Vane, because prior he came from 100 Thieves, right? Or like in between around that time. I was a big fan of Vane coming from 100 Thieves. I was like, dude, with this roster, Aiden, I hardly knew anything about Aiden, but I was looking a lot into Aiden. I was like, dude, this guy's a demon on controller. I was like, I know this team's gonna do big, cause some waves. So I was very excited for that one. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's my same answer. Honestly, I didn't know who Reeds was. I heard of Aiden. I didn't really know of Aiden. I think it's from Ranked mainly. This is where his spotlight started, was with Ranked, and then Vane coming from the 100 Thieves Kangarna situation.
Kangarna, that's right.
There was Kangarna NA because they had two pro league teams in one of each region at the time. Honestly, it was like not like oh, this is going to be the craziest squad ever, but it's an interesting one. It's a team to prove themselves, and there's kind of a rhythm, a pattern coming here with Psykho with teams just proving themselves, coming out of nowhere. So just let's hear it out.
And right, and not every team is that successful, right? But I could tell like when a team has a merit and it has a chance. I mean, just to kind of give another sort of example, right? I'm coaching this one team on like commission, and it's very small, right?
Mhm.
Like it's very small. They give me like $50 a week or whatever. It's something just minuscule,
it's
right?
that.
And just I do it for the joy. I love
yeah.
the person that I'm sort of coaching and whatnot, so I'm okay with that. So here's the thing, right? There was a particular person, right? I'm not gonna name names. Cast some real shade on my abilities and what I could do, right? And just shit talk for the sake of it, right? I'm pretty sure he's trolling, right? At
You're
this
right.
point, like
Mhm.
I
Oh,
have
yeah.
to convince myself that he just is, because he just like what the hell. But basically, like I'm pretty sure dude went out in like 20th and one of like the couple of rounds. Like it was EEC. You guys did the EEC
Yeah.
stuff recently, right? The
Yep.
PSQ stuff,
Mhm.
right? So my team that I was coaching, that team, and again, I rarely really worked with them, right? Like I basically kind of like I started to do like stuff like kind of like what do you call it? Like once a week with them,
Yeah.
but then I increased it, right?
Mhm.
It's funny, you know why I increased it? Is because bro trolling over there kind of tilted me low key. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'll show you what's good. So on the one of the game days that I was coaching them, I like helped them win a game. But on the PSQ thing, as I started to kind of increase my stuff with them, it's interesting because Mr. Trolley Troll over there like goes out in like 20th on one of the rounds. We placed 13th in finals. The first finals these kids have ever been in when it comes down to any type of practice.
Mhm.
Huge.
After like me doing more harsh work over 2 weeks time, right?
Oh yeah.
Before that, it was whatever, right? So I can understand like somebody like kind of like, whatever. This guy sucks. Those guys suck. Blah 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 blah. But the thing of the matter was, I put in the effort. I make sure the team puts in the effort. So that's funny story on that one. Just to put that out there to that particular person.
Yeah. Proof is
Whatever.
in the pudding.
Oh yeah.
Proof is in the pudding. And again, even stuff that I've learned from those guys in particular, when you're coaching, a lower level team, and when you're coaching sort of in those CC, PSQ sort of environments, it's not as structured in terms of like your tactics and your strategy and whatnot. You have to have some certain fundamentals, but a lot of it is adaptability based. So I'm having to teach people that have never played in CC or PL before how to IGL, right? Like that's it's hard. So learning stuff from that particular experience. But back to the glitch thing, right? When we were on glitch, the OXG roster, I switched Vayne to the IGL. I'm sure you guys knew that already, right?
It was
Yeah.
Reed's prior, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Reeds and Aiden came from arenas, and Aiden's claim to fame is like #1 pred in like arenas and #1 pred in BR at some particular point. Aiden had done PL before too, with a team. Thinking of who was on that team, don't fully remember. Kubski, I think it was like the Kubski OXG team, and Protectful. I think it was like Protectful and Kubski, something like that.
It was.
And,
Yeah. It was. Yep. Protectful Kupski. Yep. You got it.
Right. So
Casellos.
Casellos, yeah.
Casellas was there, yep.
Memory. Wow. So I can't even believe I remember that. It's been a minute. So yeah, no, he come from like less, pro league, flourishing experiences. Obviously we have Vayne, coming over from, 100 Thieves and everything like that. It's funny because now I can technically say, because I coached Onmu too on KCP when I did that recently.
Yeah.
So technically I've coached two of the 3 ALGS champions in North America type of thing. Which is awesome. They're honestly, it's crazy because they're very similar to each other, in their style, which like makes sense, like as they played with each other. Yeah. So, and so Glitch had a lot of work to do. We had a lot of work to do, and the things that I was the most concerned about, where the the in-game leadership situation, making sure Vayne was up to snuff with it and that his teammates believed in him. Sort of teaching Aiden and Reeds how to communicate with Vayne and like how they needed to communicate certain situations to him, and making sure everybody understood their role. You're Fragger Flex, you're Fragger, you're doing this, you're doing that, and I literally and you can find this on what do you call it? You can find this on YouTube. I did the entire like presentation of it and whatnot. Let me just think of where it would particularly be. Masterclass, that one. Okay, so I made a entire masterclass sort of around like what we had done to a certain degree. I didn't go into everything, but I like made this, and it was like part of a brand deal. I got like a couple $100 for it, and I presented it. But basically, like discussing like how the team dynamic worked, right? Who was co-in-game leader? Who was in-game leader? What was the job? How did the job look? And sort of like throughout my entire time of coaching Glitch, like on when they were, when Oxygen was Glitch, like we had trouble in end games, for example. It's because Vayne couldn't IGL towards the end game. He'd get there. His macro was good enough. We'd get there, right? I'd help him there. We'd get there, but he couldn't close us out, right? Why? Why is that happening, right? And so noticing communication cluttering, we're noticing that Reeds and Aiden are freaking out. Like there's times where like Ring is on the back, this is happening, and Aiden and Reeds are freaking out, and Vayne just silent, right? Because he's like overwhelmed. So I had to teach Aiden and Reeds, when you are overwhelmed yourselves, put out, what do you want to do here, Vayne? Vayne, I think this. Vayne, I think that. Prompt Vayne. When you prompt Vayne, he's going to have to respond to you. And the thing is, he probably already has a plan in his head, and he usually did. Probably already has a plan in his head, he's just having trouble getting it out. So I had to teach them how to communicate to each other like that. When panicked, when not, who we need to use and who needs to lead in the situation. And then, we also had other folks too, like SWL, right? So people ask me, here and all the time, what was the difference between what you did and what SWL did, right? Like, how did that function? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, what do you think normally analysts and coaches do? How do you define it?
Like the difference between the two?
Yeah, like the difference between the two.
Okay, so like realistically, in my opinion, they're both coaches in a sense. But the dynamic between the two, in my personal opinion, coaches kind of understand players and the game. An analyst knows extremely deep into the game, and maybe one can provide or project the goal in mind to the players better than others. And then kind of like an analyst kind of gives the information also to the coach to like then strategize and build off of that and then present it to the team and get that kind of going. So it kind of like, I mean, my situation was also different with Evil. But yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would say for the most part, the analyst to coach duo.
Right. So you'd say the coach sort of interacts more with the personal, the analyst interacts with the more the data, they interact with each other, but they're all both essentially coaches in their own right.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, simply put, this is a good old co-IGL situation if you want to put it into a player perspective. I think that a lot of this comes down to feeding the information to your coach, letting your coach, dilly-dally with the information, trial and error things with each other, figure out what works best, why this works best, what's the data behind this, how can we improve this. I think that that dynamic is really where it comes into a true analyst-coach dynamic,
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. So yeah, you're saying it's dynamic, kind of depending upon the situation, then.
Yeah. I think, like, for example, I mean, we have situations where on our staff right here with me, Rules and Knopfs, where like all of us are very, very talented coaches. At the end of the day, though, it's all a team effort, and we're all like putting information in. We're all absolutely like dialing down, talking things out together, working through what's the best game plan, why it's the best game plan, and then anything that we can put behind it as far as theory crafting, poking holes in each other's theories, having that iron sharpens iron kind of feedback from each other.
No, that totally makes sense. Again, like you're going sort of back and forth based upon just three brains rather than one, and you're really sharpening the axe in that situation, right?
Absolutely, brother.
Knives, any extra thoughts to add to that?
I think both these guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, I haven't really worked with like any analysts in my personal experience. Feels like I've always kind of tackled the objective kind of by myself. I would be phenomenal to work with an analyst, so I wouldn't really know how the dynamic kind of been. I mean, I've done like assistant coach work on like other esports, but when it comes to analytics and stuff like that, I have no idea, to completely fully honest.
I am diving into that challenge this next patch, me and Cad Warrior are gonna be doing a lot of data mining together. He's gonna teach me a lot of analytics, so hopefully I can fill that role for us and get that more actual data perspective based analysis.
No doubt. And, definitely good luck to all of you when you're coming up into your season here and you're coming up into whatever roles in terms of stuff that you're doing with every team. I can see that, each of you have your own, thoughts and talents on things. So, pleasure to be here with you on that. What I can say is you guys seem to kind of hit the nail from my experience, hit the nail on the head from my experience. I share a very similar experience where it's very dynamic and it's very dependent, but you're having somebody that, kind of comes to you with the data, doesn't really interact much with the players, but comes to you with data, comes to you with thoughts, and you work together to sort of sharpen the axe. So it's very, very similar dynamic for me. So this is sort of some of the things that we did. So back when console and recon weren't separated things, there was a console rate that wasn't even across the board yet. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh,
this
yeah.
was of course during the glitch days and whatnot. And what I knew was this: there's gonna come a time and a slot for data when it comes down to zones and when it comes down to your what do you call it, your beacon rates and everything like that
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Okay. And also some specifics about characters and whatnot. So SWL obviously had more intuitive knowledge because again he's someone who leaks about certain character changes and about certain things that would happen. So it made sense to have him in an analyst role for that reason alone. But also when it came down to that, like that really important grunt work that needed to be done, whether that was like, hey, we play a scrim, he's grabbing the circle of what that was and drawing it in, because the SWL was a great artist too. The entire like 3D artist, everything. 2D artist doesn't even matter. That Jack is the most talented, one of the most talented artists I've ever met. Besides my, with Ty an exception to my graphic designer that makes all my stuff, which her name is Angel. She makes all my thumbnails and stuff and all my graphics on my Twitter. So shout out to her. But basically, shout out. So basically, my thing is when I would do stuff with Jack, like he would go do those 200 customs, right? I have to go coach a team. I have to go look what other opposite teams are doing that we might need to counter or do something with. He's dropping in those customs, doing those 200 customs, giving me the beacon rates, right? Of like what's happening. Okay, we want to have this playstyle, this POI. Fisher had like a 90% beacon rate, right? Perfect. We're gonna pick it, accommodate our playstyle. We're the BR demons. We can have whatever POI we want, right? And then we also had barometers. So we have a mix of sort of a zone POI and an edge POI. So we have kind of the mix of these two particular things. And when it had to do with specifics of characters, I might ask, Jack, like about this or about that. We would both take notes during when the scrims are happening. I'm paying attention to what got us killed. He's paying attention to the economics, right, of like what we're carrying and how we're doing it, right? Now there's times where there's overlap where like I see what he's already seeing or I'm thinking whatever he's thinking and whatnot. So it was helpful to have Jack. But when it came down to the players, right, there were times where Jack might have an idea or might have something that he wanted the players to do that they would never go for, right? Like it doesn't make sense to me, right? Or some of it makes sense to me, but I understand it wouldn't work in a competitive landscape in a perspective. So I'd have to like kind of translate the back and forths and make sure the right things got across. And I'd have to make sure that if I present Jack's idea exactly, I'd ask Jack always to present his idea. He didn't always want to. Sometimes he did. It just depended on the scenario. But to kind of just go with it, Jack was a great analyst. He was able to grab all that data. He was able to kind of draw things the way that I needed him to. There's a map here that I'm missing. If you give me a second, I'm gonna find it in my DM. Let's see here. If I can pop it up and then open it in a link or something. Okay, so this right here. Let me see here. You guys can't see my screen, right? Or can you?
I can, yeah.
They're into the map, yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna be releasing just kind of a plug here, okay? So obviously I do my individual coaching and everything for teams, so you can find my stuff on Medify. Plug to that. But basically, the other thing about why that's important, when I'm done with you guys here today, I'm gonna be releasing a YouTube video, particularly about this coaching strategies that I've implemented throughout my career. Just 3 easy ones, so you can expect that to come Tuesday and whatnot. But one of them does include this, so that's why I'm talking about it. So one of the big things with macro that I find important is what I
my game.
yes,
Yes, sir.
is what I refer to as anchor points or priority positions. Okay.
Yes, sir.
When you come from a certain POI, you are going to have certain priority to other things on the map. If they're closer, you have better priority. If they're further away, you have less,
Yes, sir.
right? So what I did through time, and the thing is, you see how this is drawn, right? It's grayscaled and everything like that. That's because Vayne is partially colorblind. Fun fact. So the thing is, Jack, I would work with them and I would mark things roughly on a map, right? It wouldn't look this neat, wouldn't look this cool or anything like that. But I would work with Vayne and the entire team, and I'm like, this is a good position. I've noticed we work well from here. This team won this zone from this position. I think we could take them off of it. So I'm doing counter analysis of what other teams are winning from.
Mhm.
I'm also looking at what does work for us, and I'm also looking at a conversation with my team, what's comfortable, and then on top of that, I'm thinking to myself, what geometrically in my head do I know works and what does not, right? That we're
Right.
probably gonna have priority to. So I'm combining all those things, and we make them into one awesome thing, which is this map. And so this map from our POI where we start, in this case, I believe it's barometer. It's one of those things where we're able to tell, okay, we go from point A to point B, right? We're gonna go here first if we need like a console or whatever, or like this is where we're gonna sit in the case that a zone pulls a certain way. So we add an index, right? Jack would help me capture the zones that I wanted, right? Then I would chop them up into, okay, these are the important ones or whatever. Because when you're doing macro and when you're trying to win in an end zone, I'm not thinking about the a million possibilities. I'm thinking about what are the main possibilities here and how can I put my team in a position to win, if not do well, in 2 of 3 of those possibilities, right? If there's 3 of them, or 3 of 4, if there's 4 of them, right? How can I min max the position that we are in so that way when we have an end game in a certain spot, we know exactly where to be. So again, this isn't going to show you the end zone exactly, but we know the end zone in our heads and where we want to be because of that end zone and where the options are because of XYZ. So
Gotcha.
that's how we made this map, right? But Jack, after I'm working with the team and mixing it and making it what, drawing it out, makes it what it is. So if you want to increase the macro potential of your team, doing something like this, where you're creating points where you know you have priority to, so that way you can walk into certain zones is good. And Apex for coaches in that regard has gotten more better than ever. You can go inside of Apex Legends status right now, look at season 23, and see where most of those zones have ended as of LAN and as of Pro League. You got all the information in front of you, and you can draw whatever you need from your POI and do exactly what I just did, and your macro should improve should you do it correctly.
Yep. I like
I'm gonna
that.
spill some sauce here. I love this so much, and I would like to just. This makes me sound on my PC at home. So me and Cad Warrior, and he might be mad at me for spilling some of the sauce. Uh, he took a ton of time out of his day to do this. I work 60 hours a week, so it was really hard for me to find time to do this. But we got it figured out, and we did as much as we possibly could with him. But we mapped out using a tool that he's made with some software running around with macro utility and stuff like that, evacs, team utility, stuff like that. We went through and we mapped out the min max time for every POI spot to an end game, to a cluster of end games rather, versus every other in game spot, versus every other POI's end game's priority to those spots. So we basically went and put in the time, collected the data points to be able to build a software that's going to actually tell you just by a click or two, where you're going with the prio list of those POIs, what spots should be open, shouldn't be open, because of the value of rotations. So you just kind of
We
spoke
might have
on
to trade some sauce.
brother. I will I will plug you in with the DM with that, man. But it is super cool. I think it's called the map rotator tool. It's absolutely awesome. But we went through, we
That
did
shit's so
that.
cool, man.
It took hours. I mean, Cad Warrior's a beast, dude. I was probably at like 6 to 8 hours versus his 20 hour like ratio there. So like he's an absolute beast. Can't vouch for that guy enough. He like a pro league staff. He is a pro league ready analyst with the amount of time he dedicates just to data collection. Um, but with that being said, just want to kind of double down on the point that coaches nowadays, I mean, prospectively, we've not accomplished shit compared to you, obviously. But us tier 2 coaches, we're coming with guns blazing. We're working our asses off, and that's only got a lot of fire underneath the higher level guys to like keep pushing their ability over us, you know. So coaches are growing and they're going to be beasts, man. The more time we have to be better at this game, the more this game lifespans develop, we're gonna be pretty fucking sharp by the end of it. I promise.
No, you definitely have the shot. If you have tools like that now and you're working for it and you're really increasing your knowledge and you're really adapting. I mean, the best coaches and the best players in the world are the most adaptable. You'll never hear me stop saying that. And you guys are doing your best with that, and I really can respect and appreciate that grind. Opportunity is opportunity. It comes when it comes. But the more that we increase our RNG, battle royale, right? The more we increase our RNG, we post our content out there. We're networking with people and teams and stuff like that. The more ability we're gonna have to get our shot. That's really what it comes down to. There are politics and there are clicks to what we do, and
Yeah.
definitely
Oh,
talk
100%.
more on that a little later. But I appreciate sort of the work that you guys are putting in there. And if you're doing this now, you're definitely gonna keep rising on the board. Yeah,
So
no,
I've gotten a lot of time where I haven't been here with you guys, and I haven't got to poke with you at all, Psycho. So excuse me for poking you right here, brother. So going back to your map right here, I love this so much. One of the common philosophies I have with most of my teams, especially Arkansas State, they're my babies, they're my puppies of the bunch. Very raw to the game, learning the game from a competitive standpoint, naturally just fully cup empty. You get to put information into it, kind of people. Love that. Love it so much. With that being said, though, one of the things that I kind of do to break down this map that you have in front of us is that I look for these guys to explain concepts my accent, between three POIs that point of interest not necessarily being the actual like towns on the map, but whether it being evil harvesters, bins, map scans, consoles, whatever the case is, planning it out three POIs ahead of your rotation at all times, making sure that our anchor and our flex, our frag, whatever, we're all on the same page. We know what our responsibilities are once we get to this POI. We're efficient and effective within it. I think that that's a really cool concept to kind of explain. Simply put, what you have going on here is to look for your routing here. Look for your routing and look for your three spots, bam, 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 along that routing to maximize your efficiency going through this place. Is that fair to say?
No, that's absolutely fair to say. And again, the map only shows so much, right? But everything that you've pretty much talked about, whether it's the evil Harvey or whether it's how we set up in a certain spot once we get there, everybody being on the same page to know where we're even going in the first place, right? Before the
Right.
IGL maybe even utters a word, right? So that's all pretty much like kind of included in what we did here. But there's definitely like ways to maybe even visually present it better. Of
Right.
course, we can always do that. But you're absolutely right. Timing, how you're going to get from one point to the other, how you're going to set up when you get to the point, and the evil harvesters and everything in between. Bottom line, you pretty much got that correct. I mean, you're using a combination of end zone knowledge and the map around you and what you're likely or likely not to get for it.
I like calling them side quests. What side quests can we do along our main quest?
What side quest can we do? No, that's a good way to put it. I've never put it in the way of side quest. I might have to steal that from you.
Take the soft, brother. Take it.
But yeah, I mean, when it boils down to something like that, that's important. Now, but bottom line, macro can get very complicated, but I like to kind of keep it as simple as I can. Adaptability, whether you're doing it in macro, whether you're doing it in micro is sort of important, right? So I think we should talk about more so like, hey, because the meta is about to change right now too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So we're gonna get changes to that. The one thing that I can say, even for the lowercase teams, macro is important, sure, but your micro is even more, especially at that CC and that PSQ level, because the macro of other teams is very unpredictable. PL is a bit more like most people are gonna run the ramparts, they're gonna have a console. Most people are gonna run the Kairos, they're gonna have the console, right? You can do that. You can make those safe assumptions, but in a CC PSQ level, you can't make as much as safe as assumptions. I usually like to inspect the player cards. Like when I'm with those type of teams, I usually like to inspect the player cards or the people that I know are going to be near us, just to know if they're going to leave fast enough or not.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they have a console character, well, they're popping it, right? So the big thing is when it comes down to micro with my teams, and I did a video on this specifically talking about TSM and how Verhulst might have done it, right? I sort of speculated how he might have done it, but I also combined like what we had done and what had worked. So I'll have to find something in here, but basically what I like to do with my teams is I like to create sort of a set of SMART goals, if you will. And these SMART goals are around habits. Our micro is these things. It's our utility usage, It's our communication. It is our ability to, fight more or less, and the things that just kind of go in there, like, what weapon are we using in what situation, whatnot. So it's kind of like combination fundamental mechanics with, what is your understanding of like how to control tempo and the map and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like 2-in-1 spacing, stuff like that. But what I do, even your inventory is micro, I would argue.
Yeah,
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
absolutely.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I think
so
that's
so
the thing
so
that
so
makes utility.
so it's so many things, right? But that's like kind of what it can boil down to in those few things. But if you notice, the one thing that connects all of them is habits. If you're carrying grenades to end zone or not, that's a habit, right? Are you doing it or are you not? It's a yes or no question, right? Or like if, let's say, for example, like when we hold on, when we let's throw this back up. When we go ahead and, sorry, I'm lost in my train of thought here. Let me roll over a little bit. So when we are carrying grenades to endgame or not, whether or not, like, let's say, for example, we're sitting in a building, instead of poking with the weapon you have, you pick up a weapon on the ground, right? That has no ammo
Yeah.
association with your own, right? Or you're going to have a situation where, let's say, you want to communicate a swing. Is there a confirmation call to that swing? Did somebody say that they're going to go with you or not before you actually swung like a maniac, right? Is there, a prompt to the teammates? Like, is there a prompt to my IGL before we start doing dumb shit? Are we together when we're rotating on ring close? What I look for is, there's an issue that's happening in our micro. What is it? And then can I create a question if we are not doing that thing? And that question should be very solid. It should be specific. It should be measurable, attainable. It should be all those things. And I'm saying yes, no, not applicable. And so then what happens over time is you work with your team and you say, okay, out of the 10 games that we just played, right? And let's say out of all those 10 games, theory, out of those 10 games, all these things applied. All these, these 2, 3 things in our checklist applied, right? On micro, if we did them or not. If we could get 8 out of those 10 games when that applied to be successful because we did it correctly, thumbs up. We got that as a habit. It's smoothed out. We go next habit. So when you're working your team up, right, no matter what it is, utility, communication, all those things, if you can create those goals and you're measuring them throughout time, you can make sure they're polished, that the habits are there, so that way they can perform. So that's how I've always done my micro. That's always how I'm looking to improve my teams, and it has shown in a lot of success in terms of just communication, in terms of utility usage, and everything in between. So, I mean, you guys telling me, I mean, do you guys do something similar to what I do? Do you do something even different and it still works for you? Tell me about that.
Rules. I feel like you get to tackle this one head on, big dog.
I was about to say, I mean, I'm right here for this one. No, you were saying it perfectly. The big micro guy for everyone that I've worked with. It really comes down to a lot of fine, minute detail. Pacing in fights. You mentioned grenade utility usage. I mean, we're especially in the current meta with we're running double shields. Like, it's important to make sure. Hey, I'm castle queuing versus bubbling. Oh, we just threw all our shields on the table. Now we got an ult cooldown. We have nothing. We have fuck all. So like, comms is a big thing. You mentioned team fighting. I'm a big advocate for team fighting. Make sure things are smooth. Shout out Furious Sea Lion or ex Furious Sea Lion for coaching and showing me that stuff for Bubble Fight Wednesdays. If you know, you know. Yeah, big advocate for team fighting. It's very important. You mentioned swinging like a maniac. All right, 3, 2, 1, swing, or we're batting before we swing because how many people live or die by the ego chow and you're 50 HP. That guy's got 125 full red armor. You didn't do anything to him. We're swinging him because we're swinging him.
Right, you could be full red armor and everything, and you could swing into 2 people that are half HP, and you're still dead.
Exactly. I mean, it's a game of numbers. It's a mini game of numbers at that point. You mentioned, you using ground loot when you get to a spot versus your loadout to poke. That's a great one. The amount of times I see people just leave loot on the ground, longbows, stuff like that, but you're running shotgun and an SMG because you're a controller player.
Right.
Just all those fine, small, minute details. Comms is another huge thing. I feel like I've been, we've said this so many times to new people, but if you're running Castle and Catalyst, you have 2 walls. Castle slams, cat walls. But if you're gonna call for walls, what fucking wall do you want? So
Exactly. Do you want Veil or do you want Nuke Wall? You know?
right, you got to separate the two. But everyone's gonna be like wall here. Like, all right, well, you got two people with walls. What do you want? So it's just all those things, and that's so important with micro. And I love how you put it in a form of a smart question. You know, is it attainable? Is it reasonable? Can you put time on it? Things like that. Smart questions to really narrow that stuff down in very minute detail outside of just straight up macro. You have a macro of how you want to get from point A to point B, but when it comes to micro, it's all the small things and all the speed bumps along the way. So yeah, you did a great job explaining it.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to essentially, like as you're saying there, you got to prioritize what's important. If we're throwing all of our walls down and we don't know which one's supposed to be, what and what's happening, then we're really throwing. We're throwing our hands up and we're throwing ourselves out the window. So we might as well make sure that all of that kind of gets said and done. I guess my approach of the SMART goals particularly, and just informing them into a question. I sort of combined two different things there. I mean, I learned a thing called habit journaling from one of my original coaches that helped me kind of do that. And it was always in the form of a question. And then I just thought, okay, well, how can we make these even better? Make these make sense, adding the sort of SMART goal component. But yeah, I mean, it is all those things. And it is definitely something that is important. It's just as important as macro, if not more, right? And if I were to give, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're good, brother. I just want to take some time. I think that to mince words and to keep this point short and sweet, I think that a lot of what we're talking about here is discipline within philosophies. I think that a lot of my regrets hear me talk about this a lot. What philosophy are we playing? What game is presented to us? Are we looking at an edge priority? Are we looking at a zone priority? How's our game playing out? How do we stay disciplined within these philosophies? Is it one of those things that we're going to need to stack 6 nades when we get the purple bag, 4 nades when we get the purple bag? It's one of those things that we're going to look to stack an extra stack of shield cells, an extra stack of bats. How are we approaching the game from the time we get out of our drop ship, once we see our prio, all the way down to once you get to the end game, like we saw earlier with playing them, where maybe our comms aren't the most precise, and we need to start adjusting them to be more precision-based instead of more information-based. We're looking to kind of funnel this information into immense of words, So I think a lot of what you're saying here is simply put, a large philosophy and then a discipline ratio into that philosophy, and making sure that these players understand why the philosophy is important to be disciplined within.
Correct. And that's the thing. We all are coaches here, right? We don't just get to kind of push it on them. We have to sell it to them.
Oh yeah.
Sell it, right? And that's always, I think, the hardest part of our job, honestly. Sometimes it's to sell certain things to players. And I think, how about we talk in this case, purely just about, I mean, we're going to a new season, right? The compositions are going to be changed around, right? I have a particular prediction of what the 3 compositions I know that I'd like to probably get a team to play. You guys want to spoil a little bit for me, and I'll spoil a little bit for you?
Rules, can I please?
Yeah, you're the mad scientist here. Go crazy.
All right, so back whenever Newcastle first was introduced, I was a weird and awkward person, and I was like, hey guys, we're gonna run Maggie Crypto Pathfinder, and we're going to run at these Newcastle teams because Newcastle currently does not pace effectively in fights by himself. He needs an extra person to do that, and nobody has figured that out yet. So we're going to take advantage of this. I like breaking down things into concepts. One of the concepts I think we're leaning into within this next meta is what you mentioned, is that we're looking at a solar opposite on the spectrum of team fighting and pacing versus what we just experienced. We just experienced, poke damage, mid-range damage, entry damage in the fights, borderline meaningless at this point within the shield meta, within the double support meta, right?
Right.
Now we're looking at maybe the support meta is being nerfed a little bit. Things are kind of slowing back down as far as health regen, health pull advantages, stuff like that. And I'm looking more towards a concept shifting to the polar opposite of how fast and effectively can you pace these team fights the other direction? How fast, effectively can you punish mistakes made by these other teams? So one of the things I'm going into with that concept is I'm looking for HP deficiency, because I think that's going to be changed. I'm looking for position deficiency, so the ability to punish people based on the position that they're in or they're out of, right? And then B, how can I make this as easy and as fast as possible with keeping the concepts of a good fundamental composition? So your IE, your taxi legend, your playmaking legend, and then maybe a flex legend that could be, i.e. Bangalore, Gibby, something that offers both playmaking and taxi ability within that composition, right? So I'm a little bit of a madman, and you might call me crazy here. We're gonna see how it works, but depending on the ballistic situation, I've seen a leak where Q is instant. Once you get tagged with a ballistic whistle, you shoot your gun, you're cooked. There is no 5, 6 bullets. There is no 2 or 3 massive shots. There is no playing around the cooldown. You press R2, you press the input to fire your gun, you lose your abilities. If that is that scenario, it's going to be extremely overpowered. Definitely got to lean into that. I've also seen leaks where it's not nearly as powerful. So, kind of left up to a basis here. But with that being said, ballistic leaks are true. We're going to run Ash Ballistic and Gibby, and we're going to look to impose space fast, effectively, and efficiently. We're going to fly around the map. B, we're going to run Ash, Maggie / Fuse, depending on our playstyle of who we're working towards, whether we want a console or not, and then Crypto. For the same reasons I said earlier, is we're looking for stun abilities within the Ash or within the Crypto and Ash, or excuse me, Maggie, and then we're looking for deficiency and positioning with the Ash ability, right? Being able to catch these guys out of position, how fast can we punish them? What's the upside, whether it's a Crypto alt or like, do we get 2 or 3 in the snare? Is it Crypto alt worthy, or is it just something that we can just pop a Maggie ball, stun them, make the fight fast, efficient, and use our stun to cheese the abilities? But with that being said, that's kind of what I'm looking towards is a solar opposite in fighting and pacing between that, and how fast can I accomplish that within the tier 2 perspective. Majority being teams are going to fall back to the traditional FPS fundamentals of whenever there's a punishment, they're going to reposition, or they're going to regroup to reposition. I don't think it's going to be as still as what this current meta is, where I'm talking about hugging cheeks with each other. But I do think it's going to be within a Crypto EMP, a Maggie Ball to be able to punish somebody for regrouping to reposition. So I'm kind of leaning on that. That's my mad scientist take of the day for everybody to grill me in the comments. Fuse / Maggie / Ash Crypto. That's what we're looking forward towards. It's gonna be cheesy. Y'all gonna hate me, but yeah.
Right,
Enjoy the
and you're
EMP.
right, and you're basing some of what you're saying upon ballistic, right? So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if ballistic is that is gonna be as overpowered as what I saw, and dude, it looked like an R5 kind of cheesy leak to me, so I don't really know how much value I put into it.
right.
But if that does do that, that's gonna be absolutely disgusting to be involved in.
So when it boils down to what we'll probably like, I think we have a few things we'll probably see. But what I do like, obviously, kind of where you're going with here, right? You're thinking about whether or not he's going to be OP or not in terms of your theory and in terms of your craft. But you're also bringing kind of a crypto process into it, and you're also thinking about even still throwing a support character into your situation, with Gibby and whatnot. So I can understand that I'd like, and you're thinking obviously about like how effectively can I wipe this fight now, right?
Yeah,
It's the polar
exactly.
opposite of like,
Exactly.
okay, how could I stall this fight, right? So I get that entirely. So when I sat down this morning, again, I think this is where I think we're differing a little bit, right? You're thinking more on I think a PSQ type of thing, because
Yeah,
that's your
very
problem
much.
right now. That's what you're trying to
Yeah.
solve, right?
Yeah.
So and that's good, right? If I'd probably maybe think even in a similar way if I'm in, if
These
I'm in a
takes are
thinking scenario.
strictly tier 2 PSQ challenger circuit. Pro League experience is at a minimal. I got to be an analyst for W back in the gap, but no, I'm very much, we're killing nerds right now. We're not killing you pros yet.
So what I'm thinking about, and again, maybe it can transfer over too, right? It just depends on what happens. But what I see is this, right? Right now, I'm also thinking about the character ban, right? Because
Yeah.
that's something in my head. Because as I understand the rules right now, as I have read them and interpreted them, what's going to end up happening is the first after your first game, more or less, it's free for everything. There's no ban on anything. You get to your
Mhm.
second game, you're gonna have bans, right? Then if you ban an entire class, right, at kind of towards the end of it, you can get basically one of I believe either the first one that you ban,
First
or
down, I
basically,
believe.
yep, the first ban, I believe, back into the class,
Yes, sir.
or
That's what
back
I was
back
gonna
into
say.
the pool. So then there's also the fact, there's also the tiebreaker rule. So the tiebreaker rule being, of
But
course,
on the pain. Yeah.
right, if they're the same, and then the highest scoring team that basically is not playing kind of that, basically, or parts of that, get
Yeah.
to kind of decide, right? It would have been cool if like that team could be like, nah, everybody stick and do it. We're banning Mirage. That shit would be funny, but
That'd be
that's
tight.
never gonna happen. That obviously wouldn't work. So, but more or less, what I'm thinking about is Ash, Ballistic, Catalyst.
I like that. I like that.
And my thought process going into that, Ash is going to get banned first. And I think the pros are going to try their best. If we are bringing Catalyst, they're going to try their best to keep her, because you need console, and the only other console character in this coming meta that would be useful is Watson. That's it.
Yeah.
But the Taxi Legends, that's what we're talking about right now, right?
Yeah.
Your Taxi Legends. So your Taxi Legends, right? Ash TP, Maggie Ball, right?
Yeah.
Pathfinder obviously like has a zip, but right now, right?
Not a
It
good spot.
depends.
Not a good spot.
Right, not in a good spot, right? And so we're thinking about like who can transition. Obviously, Wraith is not going to be like as useful for that of an Ash. Obviously, when you're able to dash around and do whatever the hell you want, Bangalore obviously with the smoke allows for a transition there too. So I think it's going to be double assault, and I think what's going to end up happening is they're probably going to keep Cat. Maybe they might have to switch to Watson if Cat gets banned because of just the 100% rule set or something like that, right? And Fuse might make up for her on the console thing. It just depends, right, on what's gonna happen. But if I were to give like a couple off the top of my head, Ash, Ballistic, Catalyst, Bang, Ballistic, Catalyst, and then I'd probably say what you would have then is, I wrote it down earlier, missing it in my head right now. Ballistic would probably get banned in that, or Bang would. It just depends on either one, right? You would think it's probably going to be Bang, so then in that case, you might run yourself a Maggie with the Cat, right? So it just depends on the scenario. Ballistic might get banned, Ash might get banned, blah blah blah. But I know for a fact that 2 or higher rates that are probably going to be banned are going to be your Ballistic and your Ash. So I'm trying to like kind of come up in my head with who to replace for what and who to do for what, because then you also need to have the player that's going to flex on what is what, and we're going to have them serve similar roles. So, but yeah, if I were to pick my number one comp that I'd want a team to play, it would be that Ash, that Ballistic, and that Catalyst.
I think what you just spoke about as far as individual player legend pool is going to be the most determining factor. People have spoke a lot about how coaches will be a very deciding factor, and you see it too in the tier 2 scene within everybody having an LF coach post. I've never seen this many. Year 4, Knobs, you were a free agent year 4 along with me. It was slim pickings, brother. I mean, I think me and you were considered for like half the same roles, brother. Like it was rough out here, So with that being said, year 5, you're seeing LF coach posts everywhere. You're seeing more engagement from the scene to get these great minds involved in, and I love that. That's absolutely fucking awesome for one. But for 2, I think that it's going to be a lot more dependent on these players. How much time do you have to learn these compositions versus how much time you have to get ready to compete? PSQ's not far away. This upcoming weekends are really our buffer time to get these things figured out after the patch comes. So we're not the largest time as coaches or as players. And I think the players will be a ton of a deciding factor as far as how they can master this, and getting into those PSQ finals for the tier 2 scene. Experiencing this for the first time is going to be a huge gameplay factor, gameplay variable.
No, I completely agree. Players are going to play a very huge factor because they're going to have to adapt, and the coaches will too, because they're going to have to kind of predict what might work in what situation, and then also help the players, adjust and adapt as necessary, right?
I think another big thing is coaches. I mean, at least one thing you've touched on and I've touched on as well is what's going to be banned. Like what are we looking at for game 1, game 2 for the foreseeable future of for certainty bans is what I like to call them. Things that we know we're going to lose within the first 3 games of our composition. So mapping it around that, getting through your 4-game set within PSQ, getting into those last 2 games, whether it be match point or whether it be a 6-game format this upcoming season, is going to be a big determining factor of how can you flex out after that game 3 when you've lost all the meta options.
Exactly. I mean, like the randomization that has come to the game is a lot, right? We now have console and recon. It's not just, and it changed from high rate to flat rate all around in terms of the percentages of what was going to spawn where, right? And then, we had the reset meta, which, somebody can get shot across the map and then it screws everything over perhaps, and it does whatever, right? And then we have a reset over here, reset over there, and the team ends up moving last because they can heal with a syringe or something.
Yep.
Unpredictable, right? Unpredictable. And it's kind of getting worse in that regard, right? But that makes it so we have to min-max even more, right?
Yep.
So what I like to think about is kind of, and I'll give you kind of a cautionary tale here, and what I learned from it, and what I want to bring forward, to whatever team I join next. So one of the things about this adaptability problem that you're talking about is the player factor. Okay,
Yeah.
so when Seer got nerfed, right? In order for Oxygen Esports to do as well as they did, a lot of things were different, right? Beacons were different, as I said. The compositions and the meta at the time were different, right? And how that played out. So the thing was, what we had going for us was this: I had the team synergized. All the roles were going at the right time, the way they needed to. We were doing well on all the characters because we had swapped them around so much on each other, which is a method that I would say should be done. If you have a set of characters, do the roulette on them. Do that in rank, do that in wherever, do that in scrims. Roulette your characters that you're going to play on the team. Even if you're not going to play that character, roulette it on somebody else on your team, so that way you can synergize it later. I understand your pain now. Okay, because you played my character. Awesome, I get that. Oh, you know what? I never thought about using utility that way, but you did. That's awesome. Maybe you should play that character, right? So you're getting more out of it. And the cautionary tale that I have is this: when Seer got nerfed, I said to my team, I was like, listen, we're gonna have to test some stuff out. We only got a month to the championship at this point. We've already done well at playoff. We had everything going for us. Things have changed right now. We gotta adapt, okay? So I said Bloodhound would be really good for our team composition right now and how we play and our aggression and all these things, okay? Let's play some Bloodhound and let's test it out. I'm that head coach. I don't get to make all the decisions. I can't force certain things. It is what it is, okay? They did not decide to play Bloodhound until 2 days. We were at boot camp until 2 days in boot camp. We scrimmed twice in boot camp with Bloodhound. Our only times playing it before we went to LAN. That was kind of a throw.
Not a lot of sample. Not a lot of sample for that size.
Right. And so here's the thing, right? Catalyst would be fundamental for that final.
Yep.
Fundamental, okay? But my thought process is, if we can test something now, all right, and see how it goes, we can test something else later. If Seer's gonna end up being played, right? This was my case then. If Seer was gonna end up being played, we already know how to play him. We already know. Let's do something that we're not used to so we can adapt, right? Nope. So now what you're looking at here, this is what happens when shit's on fire. All right? Like, things are on fire. Nobody knows how to do what. We're on fire, okay? This right here is a packet that SWL and I designed, particularly around Bloodhound. And I gave this to Reeds on the stage, right? Because SWL was noting certain things that Reeds was having problems with the Bloodhound, blah, blah, blah. So I gave him those. And I also had like other things to bring up on the stage, like who was picking what on what team normally and where they were from and all that stuff. So that's in here too. But particularly like how the bird worked, right? And he drew this. He's like, okay, this is what happens with that, blah, blah, blah. So I'd bring that to Reeds and I'm like, okay, this, that, you know, we both agree that there's an issue here, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that, you know, to us, that's important. If we are in a crash course situation, we crash course it, baby. We run through the wall like the Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah, get it done. Okay. So that's like at any particular scenario in my career, if that is what has had to happen, that is what I was committed to. So in that situation, because, you know, bottom line, right? Bottom line of it, we didn't get to test out Catalyst. We tested out Bloodhound too late. What accumulated then was a 16th placement at a championship LAN. Yes, we made it to finals because Bloodhound helped us to that point, but we couldn't close it out because we didn't practice our Catalyst. That happens a lot to teams, a lot, and it really shouldn't. We have to adapt. We want to win, right? So that's my cautionary tale of adaptability and team compositions and whatnot. And the ban now has made this even worse in its own regard, right? It has made this even harder. So at the end of the day, things have changed a lot more than they were before, and we are forced to adapt, but I am all for it.
So I'm gonna change the pace and turn the wheels for a second with you, brother. You spoke on land there. You spoke on some champ stuff there. We always have coaches do this when they come on, man. And now that rules back, I feel like it's the perfect time to ask you this. What's your funniest, best, embarrassing? What's the stories from land we get to hear about? Obviously, this year, me, Rules, and Knives, we'll see you there. We'll be there with you this year. We're gonna be competing on that stage with you. But until that time comes, we're ignorant, man. So give us the sauce. What's up with the story time? Funniest story, most embarrassing. What you got for us?
So I'll give you one. I give you one from Aiden's book because it was hilarious. Okay. Um, so we were boot camping here in Foxborough, and Aiden's Canadian, so they like they like cook everything like well done over there or something. Wherein like basically it's weird. So we're going to a restaurant. Aiden sits down. He's about to order his food, right? And the lady asked him, how do you want your meat cooked?" What he says is pure gold. Cooked.
Nice.
and the fuck and then the lady's like the lady's just like in awe. She's like, so honey, there's well done, medium well, blah blah blah. How do you want it well done? And he's just like sitting there like unsure. And then third smash Jordan, he's over there and he's like, because he's the manager of the team, kind of trying to do his thing. And he's like, yeah, he'll take it medium well. and then she did the order, but basically like cooked. Okay. so there was
Nice.
that. I guess another funny thing was Aiden didn't bring a coat to what do you call it, to England or whatever. So it was raining and everything, and so I have like this giant trench coat, plopped it on him, right? Inside of my trench coat, this is not a funny story. It's inside of my trench coat is an umbrella, okay? And he takes out the umbrella, and like so the other thing too, like he'd walk around and like people would finally call him like sir for the first time. So he's like excited to wear the jacket because people are calling him sir and shit. And he takes out the umbrella from his jacket and he's like, "This is mine now." And I'm like, I'll tell you what. I'm like, if you do well in this land, you can have that umbrella and you can have the trench coat. Gets third place in the world. Well, I guess that's yours now, kiddo. That I
You're telling me and Knives are sending our guys McDonald's money and getting them door dashes for their performances, and a trench coat and an umbrella would get us a third place at land. That's what you're telling me? Knives, what are we doing?
I don't know, man.
in playoffs as well. Another crazy story. So we get the shuttles and we go to the arena. Vane had left his mouse pad in a cardboard thing on the shuttle. So he was missing it for a while, and we were gonna have to play kind of soon. So we're talking to the staff. The staff is trying to look in the shuttle and they're trying to find it, and nobody's finding shit. Nobody's finding anything. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, is it really that hard to find? And I'm like, all right, it's my time. So I'm like, guys, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go find this mouse pad. And so I go back, right? So they take me to a shuttle. I go back to the hotel. There's another shuttle that's there, and that's the other shuttle that was there was the shuttle that we went with. Okay. Lo and behold, I walk into that shuttle, in the corner, cardboard box with his mouse pad in it. So I'm over here, in my head, singing like, fucking hero music, and I grabbed the mouse pad. She's like, you know what? I could drive to the arena real quick, like, the lady in that shuttle. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So I went through security all the way again, went all the way around, went to my booth, gave Vane his mouse pad. So it took like hours for them to find a mouse pad that took me maybe 20 minutes. So that's another interesting story, I guess, that I could think of off the top of my head. So
Absolute super coach.
cooked mouse pad and umbrella.
I think I appreciate the umbrella story the most, man. That's just fucking funny.
Literally third place just for a trench coat and umbrella. Like, damn.
That's actually fucking
I go on
insane, dude.
Amazon right now if that means we're going to Pro League. Like, holy fuck.
I'll just say I got my cut of that money. I could buy a new one at that point. So
There you go.
So I'm not really sure what all you guys have spoke about as far as your early past. Tell me if you've already talked about it or not. I'm just gonna run down my list here. Obviously getting into the glitch gaming stuff. I heard you talk about Stoopy and matching earlier, so I'm not gonna touch much about that. Just gonna ask you a simple question.
Sure.
Who's got the most Riz? Soup or Match?
I mean, Match got that Southern charm. I ain't gonna lie to you, right?
That's what I told Soup. That's what I
He's
told
get-
you. You can't touch
he-
the Southern Charm, brother.
He's got that Southern charm, but Soupy got that like random funniness, and listen, they both are pulling somebody. That's the thing, though. They're both pulling somebody. It's just different types of females, but they pulling somebody.
I
So
mean,
I'm
they
gonna
both are
say
married, so that makes
I'm
sense.
gonna say to avoid Mortal Kombat with both those individuals. It's a tie.
That's hilarious. My last question, and Soupy's gonna hate me for this. Did you ever see the Soupy left toe? Ever whatsoever?
I never
say
saw the Soupy left toe. That never
You're
happened.
blessed, dog. I have been terrorized by that motherfucker's left toe my entire career working
What?
with him. Listen. If you don't know, if you just don't
I'm
need
gonna
to know.
stay. I'm gonna stay not
You
knowing.
need to stay ignorant, dog. I'm so happy to hear Psycho wasn't traumatized the way I was. I thought maybe we were trauma brothers. We're not. Okay, good. I'm by myself in that. Love that. Okay.
We are not trauma bound. Thank the
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
no, that's definitely that. You guys or the community have any other questions? Things while I'm here.
Yeah. We need the Riddler lore. We can't forget the
Oh,
Riddler
okay.
jacket lore.
Okay. This jacket right here, okay? I did get it tailored at some point, but that's part of the lore, so let me talk about it. So this jacket is maybe like 60, 70 bucks, something like that. Bought on Amazon randomly, okay? Why? Right? Why? Right? When I think about the passion that I have for this sport, when I think about the passion that I have for my team, when I think about winning and what it brings to me, I mean, I remember being on that championship stage and, literally crying a little. I had to take a leave of absence from the stage for like 2 minutes or whatever because I saw the trophy standing there, and I knew that anything is possible. That we did put in the work. There were issues, but anything is possible. And the thing is about the passion that I have, it comes everywhere. It comes in my vocality, comes in my work, comes in my wardrobe. So when I thought about Oxygen and the fact that, we're a Boston org, I live here, in Massachusetts and everything like that, I thought, yeah, I could wear a random jersey. Yeah, I could wear a sweatshirt. There's going to be people that are going to wear suits here and there, but they're just going to be black suits or whatever. Who dares to wear a suit with their team's color on it? And there was only one team I could think of in Valorant, and that was Sentinels. The guy wore a red suit. So I said, fuck it, we ball. Let's do it. So
fucking ball.
fuck it, we ball. So a couple days, week or so for LAN, I get the green suit or whatever. But, we're just newly getting signed to Oxygen at that point. Like, I'm not making that much money at all. And, I didn't also have the time. I wanted to tailor it. I didn't have the time. So my first appearance of playoff when I wear the suit, it's very untailored, very messy, right? And then it just became a thing where, I got memed as the Riddler from Tom from Esports GG, and I just embraced that fact. I even like in that second LAN in the championship, I got a Riddler tie and everything. So it's like if you get, pictured in your passion and somebody memes it or embraces it or whatever, and it's cool and it's nice, embrace that even more, baby. Embrace that even more. So next thing you know, I'm the Riddler with the with the tricks up my sleeve that nobody knows about, which is true. I do have tricks up my sleeve that some people just don't know about. So, this interview I'm doing with you, right, and the video that I'm coming out with here soon, in the next couple of days, this is the first time I've ever talked about the shit that I have done. Simply because of the fact I don't even think what I do sometimes is good enough. I want more.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going to get it by saying I do this, I do that, and giving my competitors things either. What's going to happen when I am successful is when I put my head down, I ignore all the noise around me, and I focus on the work and I focus on the players in front of me. And, with this green suit, I'd hoped to represent the brand that was, going to end up paying me well. And I had hoped to represent the team. It ended up becoming a funny meme while I was alongside that. And honestly, it couldn't have gone better.
I think that, with all due respect to the meme accusation, I would like you to use the word iconic versus meme.
It is iconic.
I don't think it's fair to call that a meme.
I agree with that. I agree
I
with that.
think that
Like,
you changed the game when you put that suit on. You when you doubled down and you came with the tie, brother. Brother, you changed it for everybody. You put a personality behind coaching. You put a face on coaching for a minute, man. As a coach, God bless you, dog. That's something that you did that enabled us, put spotlight on us. That's huge things for us, brother. So iconic. I like that better. You know. Um,
I think I'm gonna roll with that.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's
yeah.
I
definitely
think I
iconic.
get the yeah, no, I
Um,
think that all in all, I am there's ups and downs to many parts of my career. Things that we'll never get to know or talk about because I'm just, I'm on either I'm not trying to, burn bridges or I'm just simply I don't like to verbose very much. There's times I definitely deserve to because I have worked hard for it, but at the end of the day, I am very very much on the end of anybody who even criticizes the slide jump from the slide jumping $200 people to the people that are like this guy should be sued. I don't hate anybody and I'm happy to be critiqued at any particular point for anything I do. The only thing I ever ask is the constructiveness to it. I'm a very personal guy. I love to get along with everybody that I can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be respectful. And that's just who I am, and that's what I want. That's what I want other people to embrace too.
so I'm not sure what the time limit is for today. Obviously, a lot of my stuff was prepping on a plane yesterday for 6 hours of my life, and that was absolutely horrendous. My neck and back hate me right now. I've got to do that back. I'm stopping in Las Vegas on the way back, so I'm gonna hate myself more. With that being said, though, I do have some questions if we have some time. One of those being, is there any specific method of practice you use? Like for example, one thing that I've cited on the show many of times is that one things that we do with me and rules is we do siege or be sieged. We go to TDM, set up in buildings, give them maybe a 5 second time buffer as if they're rotating in with the team rotating behind them, and then present a controlled environment for them to fight within of those circumstances, you know?
I
Is there
do
anything
think
similar that you have?
yes. So, contest practice, I'm sure we all particularly do here. That's one of the other methods that I would essentially use when it comes down to that, because that became kind of an issue, of course. And the other one was pretty much exactly what you're saying, where it's sort of we bring the team in, we created sort of a controlled environment in terms of the TDM itself. And then obviously, I have them do the actual TDMs. That way they can communicate sort of the swings and everything like that. And then there's also just kind of getting them to 1v1 each other. Sometimes it helps when your teammate beams you because that that's your teammate, right?
Yeah.
So those are sort of like the things that I implemented that. And then when arenas was the thing, I also recommended that, of course, as a way to sort of buff what you particularly had. So there's all those methods. But I think even with all those methods, you got to see what works for the team, of course, and then you have to kind of make the schedule around it. You have to kind of keep them accountable to, are we doing these things if they work, especially. I used to have a drill as well that I'd have a team do. Particularly this worked with Reply Totem. It was a communication drill. There was a communication drill that I learned from a guy that basically like coaches like all the esport coaches. Like he's like the guy that makes all the courses, like does all the general stuff. So no matter what game you're playing, like you get something from him, type of thing. And he had this communicative exercise where you'd sort of go 3, 2, 1, and like it would go down the line, and then you would also reverse it. So your first teammate would say 3, second 2, second 1. You do that a couple of times, and then you tell them to reverse it. Then it goes like the opposite way around. And what that can kind of help with is like rhythm,
Yep.
rhythm.
Yep. I
And
like
so
this.
what I had them do is very similar. Go in the range, stand on the platforms, right? In this case, we had the three dummies center firing range, right? So it's different than the one that we had now. And what I would have them do is they would shoot around first, and then they would shoot a target, and it would be look at me, look at me. So and then they'd go back and it would just maintain a rhythm. First they're shooting nothing or shooting other targets around, and then they say look at me, look at me. They'll shoot a target, and then their other teammates will look at them looking at the target, and then shoot the target so it dies. So
I love that.
it created a communication of look at me, but it also created a rhythm, right? And so I did kind of a combination of those two particular things, and that's just range. That's just
I'm
basic stuff.
definitely stealing that from you, by the way. That's in my catalog now. I appreciate that. That's
That's a
fucking
good
Hey,
sauce
one.
right there,
That's a
dog.
good
I
one.
love that.
we've been
Targeting drills. I love that.
been sharing the sauce all day together, man. I'm all for
Oh
it.
yeah.
Take it.
Okay, so again, I've already talked about this. Not sure what you guys covered early on. Still on vacation. We're working through this. With that being said, though, any early influences to your career as far as getting into coaching, whether it be esports. Me and Rules joke around all the time that I'm the coach JB of Apex Esports. He's the coach Bill Cowers of Apex Esports. That's kind of our personalities that we kind of, they're whether or not inspired by is the right word for, but we definitely kind of embody some of those features from those guys. Is there anything that yourself you kind of see that maybe, Bill Belichick being from the Boston area, all those rings might have given a little influence to you?
So basically, I would say it's a combination of the school teachers that I did have. Like when I was growing up and I was like in high school and stuff like that. Like here's the thing, right? I've conquered many challenges and there's still many that I have. Like if you sat across from me now, right? Maybe somebody could tell, but I doubt it, right? You wouldn't know that like I have ADHD and I have bipolar. I'm prescribed medications for both of these things, right? So when I do a competitive job like this, emotions can go up and down. Concentration can be broken, right?
Yeah.
So not only did I have a hard time in school because of those things, because those things went and diagnosed until I became an adult, right? And there was just teachers in school for me though. I had a teacher, his name was Dr. Thad Lavale, and he would sort of break it down in like the most entertaining way possible. He'd draw things out on the board. He would ask you questions. When people and teachers like him use like the Socratic method on me, like really making me think, not just telling me and giving me a booklet, making me think. Those people are sort of the people that inspired me. So next thing you know, fast forward, I'm getting into this, right? And I'm still, as an adult at that point, still didn't know I had those issues quite fully yet. And I had a coach. His name is Rio River Spirish, and he's just like anybody else. But he had a background in education in terms of like teaching like little kids,
Mm-hmm.
and he played many games from Super Smash to Overwatch to Apex, whatever. But in Apex, he was like the plat 4 like Pathfinder fucking shitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that he necessarily taught me strategy. That's not the one thing that taught me or made the light bulbs go off or anything. It was learning how to learn. If you remember what I talked to you guys about earlier, the SMART goals and the combination of the questions, right? When I was taught by him, what he would do is he would give me these questions and he'd be like, when you get in the lobby, ask yourself, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Right? Make it no more than 4, right? And work it that way. And I saw myself go from, your shitty frigging, plat 4 player to even like going above him, being like the diamond 4, the diamond 3 eventually, right? And then, as I got more, getting the master situation, right? So for me, the teachers that use the Socratic method on me, and then particularly using it how I was taught from my first coach, who again was nowhere at our level at this particular point. That's what taught me that I can do anything. I can learn anything. I just have to frame it in a way that works for me, or make it so I ask the right question so it can be formed to me, or find the right person to teach it to me that can form it in the way that I need it. That is very inspiring. And what I do in my style is very similar to that. I always ask my players this, that, the other thing, because again, yes, I can tell them certain things, and I will in the moments where it matters. But also, getting them to think critically for themselves, I've also noticed is very helpful.
Yes.
So I'm sure they share very similar issues to me. I know that Vane shared some particular issues, mental health issues, just as much as I do. So working with that and making it so everybody's on the same page, everybody feels welcome, everybody can learn.
Yeah.
That's where I got that from. That's who inspired me to do it, and that's what I carry for it.
I'm not gonna say it's even kind of ironic that the guy that we call the Riddler is talking about being a thought-provoking coach. Um, no irony there whatsoever. Just to kind of segue into another question I have for you, brother. You spoke a lot about challenges during that. 2 questions, a little double-sided here for you. All right. First one being biggest challenge you experienced early on in your coaching career within esports, and then B, what is the moment or the challenge that you saw that gave you the confidence that you were pro league ready, you could do this, you're an established coach, you're ready for the big times?
So I hear both those, and they're obviously two different questions. So I'm sort of thinking about both at the same time. Hit me with the first one first again.
All right, first one again. Okay. What is your biggest challenge you experienced early on in your coaching career within esports?
Early on in my coaching career, the one thing that was the most challenging for me was when I was done with Reply Totem and everything, and I was looking for things to do. I had joined a Discord channel, particularly that had Raven and a few other coaches in it. Okay. And we had gotten to a conversation where, what do you call it? We had gotten to a conversation where basically somebody in Raven's Discord or whatever had called me like a scam coach, if you will, right? And at this point, I'm not having like entirely big achievements by any means, okay? And so the one thing that I faced early on was that, imposter syndrome, because even when I would like kind of when I had that conversation with Raven and whatnot, I basically told him like I do the same things kind of that you do, and I'm sure there were some overlaps to some of the things that we did, and whether or not he agreed with that or whatever is whatever, genuinely. And obviously I respect Raven because he's smart, he's done a really good job and everything like that. But the one thing that stuck particularly in my head is the scam coach thing from the people in that court at that moment, and also just the disagreement that I had that Raven's basically like, you don't know what I do, you don't do what I do, right?
Mhm.
And again, like I have one land under my belt at that point, and then he wins the next one. So I struggle at that point in my head with imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I ready for this? Am I even good enough to do this? What can I actually do? And so I struggled mentally with that for a long time. But then I just came to the realization at some point, and you heard it from me earlier, I wanted to prove myself. And I knew that I could. And I knew that getting back in the league could do that. And I basically worked my ass off. I didn't listen to the noise anymore. It sure was in the back of my head from time to time. And the moment that changed is when I put all that work in and I put all the team and stuff together, and we got third in the world, and I was right behind Zero and Nick from Dark Zero. I knew at that point, and I guess I earned enough for the respect of Raven to shake his hand at that land because I have a picture of that too. But at the end of the day, I don't know what he thinks anymore. I don't really ask him. To be fair, I don't really I don't really care, right? The thing in the matter was that was my most early on challenge was the imposter syndrome. Now, how I overcame that is I put my head down as much as it was in the back of my head, and I just worked because even if you think that you're bad or whatever, you might as well try to play in the delusion that you're good. Even if you don't believe it, make it real and play into that delusion and see where it gets you. Right. Fake it till you make it. Play into the delusion.
Yeah.
And see how it goes. But at that point, as I was building momentum slowly in Pro League, I knew that something was going to come that was going to be good. Glitch, and this is public information too. Yeah, Glitch probably, if we didn't go and win that thing, if we didn't go through Pro League and get to that LAN, we probably would have been jobless because Oxygen would have never picked us up, and Glitch was already gonna drop us anyways because they had a hard time funding esports and understanding how it needed to work. And again, this is public and other interviews.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was my most early on challenge is just the imposter syndrome and letting people deem who I was and sort of kick me down and whatnot. And still, even to this day, even though I went to 3 lands, okay, and went through all the trauma and the back and forth, being, to being broke, to having money, to being broke, to having money, to, like, to people on my own team, calling me brain dead for XYZ, right? I went through a lot, more than other people have. And the other thing is, there's a lot of coaches, not gonna name names out there, that were kind of gifted things early on because they probably started early on and they had teams that were already ready to do things. Me, I picked up the people that nobody cared about, nobody knew about, everybody underestimated, and I delivered. That's why in my tweet I literally say, underrated, always criticized, but never failed to deliver, because I haven't. And anytime that I even have delivered and it's supposed to be on paper good enough, right? Not even I think it's always that good enough. So if somebody's trying to be my critic, they've already lost. I'm the worst one as is.
I love that, man.
That's great.
I used to joke like this with my friends all the time when we were growing up, man. We were always fans of the good old saying, "Nobody can hate me more than I hate me. Good luck." I'm gonna be my biggest critic at all times. I'm gonna push myself to be the best version of me at all times. Love that you share that. Also, just to kind of talk back on some of the things you said, man, I think that it makes this interview 10 times more important to me, and I'm super sorry I wasn't here for the beginning parts of this. Just that you've experienced some of that adversity that some of us tier two coaches experience. For example, right now, one of my big goals is that I'm trying to make a LAN and make pro league in two different regions simultaneously. I want to cause that controversy. I want EA to panic. What do we do with this guy? How do we split his staff up upon two regions? I want that fucking problem. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, here recently during the PSQs, mock PSQs, I experienced some semi players coming into semi players, former players chats and their discords being like, "Hey, this evil guy, he's a scam, dude. He's not good. He's trying to charge us money for sessions. He's not worth his time. We've watched what he's done. He's never made it to pro league. He's never done this." Then that weekend, not by any means our best performances on either side. We had a sub for NA and in EMEA we had dynamic issues going into game 5 and 6. All of a sudden they were created. So we had some adversity we had to face as per usual. With that being said, though, finished 12th in EMEA overall, finished 13th in North America overall, off of what I would like to say, not our performance, not what we are as a team. So obviously, there's a lot of hope going into that. Does that legitimize me? Absolutely not, man. I'm still hungry as fuck. We still got to prove, top 12, top 13 does not get us to that ALGS Open in both regions. So we got a lot of work to do to finish things up and tie it up. But just hearing about your early days and how you experienced that adversity from your peers, I think that a lot of us can relate, whether it be from different players, from different coaches. Not everyone's the most gentle within the community. Not everyone's the most nurturing within the community as far as building this thing up brick by brick and understanding that it takes everybody. It genuinely does. Whether you're a new coach getting into it or you're Psycho, third place Atlanta achievement, coming and talking to tier two coaches on a podcast, it takes every effort from everybody. So love to hear that you kind of share that same perspective as me as far as that, and some of your adversity is kind of relatable as far as that goes, man. Doubling down the second question, I think that your answer might have actually been a really good answer for that too, to be honest with you.
Sure.
What is the moment that you knew that you're Psycho? You are him. You were legitimizing your ability, your confidence. You've arrived.
I definitely would say that that does come with the two land set that I had, especially like at the start. The third being the pinnacle there, it like I worked my ass off, day and night, sacrificed, did everything that was necessary to be there, and be there in that way, and like it was just one of those moments where I realized that I could genuinely do just about anything. Was that first land that first land that I did really well in, right? Because I already made one before that, didn't do so well, obviously. Second one, I literally am third right there, right? And I knew also that if we had just changed the things that I wanted to during the championship time and tested things out a little earlier, that could have also worked. So even the failures that particularly occurred, like they still told me that I was worth it. If I'm being able to sit on the stage with some of the best players and coaches in the world, so that we respect and claim, then I'm more than capable of doing it. I believe, genuinely, and again, I genuinely believe some of the coaches that were on this land stage, they can't hold a candle to me. They can't. But at the end of the day, they did their work. They got their opportunity. It's just me and my time to seize it when I see it. But the next team that I coach, rest assured, that team is going to be successful. And it could be based upon the littlest things. I mean, I literally, there was a time, even then though, that I was ready to like quit. I guess that I that's sort of sum up to your question, but I'd like to say something else in particular too.
Of course.
Go for it.
So there was a time, so I had actually played Challenger Circuit, and it had significantly helped my micro. We actually got screwed over because we had done well, and I think it was like round 3 or whatever. We had done well, and they had taken away 2 of our games because there was an issue in another lobby or whatever. So literally a 7 and 8 point game from a triple contest down the drain. So we didn't make it as far as I wanted to with that, but it did help a lot with me because I was in game leading, I was working on my micro, I was really seeing it from that perspective even more so. on the player end, because that's what I wanted to put myself through, because I wanted to do that a little bit more. Obviously, I played ranked and everything else, and I'd done like, subbed in for a scrim or whatever with Aiden and Reeds, and then like a small tournament or something. But I wanted more, and that was helpful. But to get to my point here, I basically, you guys obviously knew I worked with KCP for a little bit, right?
Right.
You guys are aware of that. So when I worked with KCP, we had E-District, obviously for the first time, placed in a comp environment, and in Boom TV. First time placed in a comp environment that was serious. And I worked with that team mostly on their micro, but here was the interesting part. Through LCQ, right? Because they didn't get to land. So they're in LCQ trying to qualify for Japan. Okay? So by that particular point though, like, I've tried to find teams, I've already messaged a few teams, I've tried to work hard to find a team already at that point after CC. And nothing was coming up. Nothing. I was ready to be done. I went out, I filled out a whole resume and everything just for normal work, normal jobs. I had 2 job interviews. Passed them both. Flying colors. But the pay of the job and the type of the job and everything like that, it just felt to me like a slap in the face. I felt like I was undermining all of my abilities. All the things that I had learned. Because I didn't just learn the game, I learned how to be a leader, and I learned to learn. These are things that, like, people just don't always get. And, and whatnot. So, anyways, they were like, here's, what, $14 an hour or whatever, even though the higher scale is like 21 and I had a sales background or whatever. Stupid. So next thing you know, I have Onmu, Jen, and Deeds come to me and they're like, listen, we need a coach for LCQ. We need help. We heard that you could probably do it. Come. And basically, I had to make the choice of, do I tell these jobs that I'm not going to take them and, do a month trial, not paid, KCP, and see if it works out. And, again, I'm not going to name names or anything like that. But I do think that KCP does deserve a little bit of a drop on this. So when I had a discussion with the KCP management, they said to me that they would give me a contract that guaranteed at least a negotiation. Not even that I'd have a deal, just a negotiation of the deal. And I believe that they would have. So I had dropped both the job offers that I had, and I worked with KCP for a month. And although the management said they were all in for this team, they gave everybody, including me, radio silence, and they end up dropping the team very soon after. But the funny thing is, during LCQ, into Boom, into I think again what was going to be like another Steel series or whatever, the team was improving. We were the first team in history, in comp history, on E-District to drop back-to-back wins. And we didn't have any macro for that map. Nobody fucking did, basically, right? We landed in River, right? Fucking nothing there, right? Right? Ain't nothing goddamn there. Okay, it's just a fucking river. Ain't nothing there, right?
So Riverside's trash.
So we land there, but throughout the entirety of us doing LCQ and doing everything else, I'm making our freaking micro as sharp as I can fucking make it. And let me find something real quick. But I'm making our micro as sharp as I fucking can make it. And I'll show you here. This is laid out on my bed behind me here. Okay. This is the amount of notes that I took that had to do with some individual player things. They had to do with what the overall issues that we had were. We had 7 issues, okay? We had, like, contests, we had communication issues, we had leadership issues, we had, people not feeling welcome in the team, we had composition issues. Every issue that you could imagine a team had, KCP had, okay? I worked with them through LCQ. They made it to, I think, like, finals of that, and that was the best that we were going to do, given that I literally had, like, a week, maybe 2, right? These were the notes that I jotted. We won a scrim. We did well in the Boom TV tournament, being the first team to win an E-District back-to-back, and yet an org still will drop. So it's one of those things, and I get it. They're doing business. They're doing that because they wanted something better out of their team. They wanted land performance. They wanted this. They wanted that. I get that. I'm completely for the business. I just asked for transparency, and unfortunately, they didn't give that to me. And I had given up 2 normal job offers to do that. I work hard for everything I've ever had. And despite even that at this moment, and despite from day to day, I take it day to day right now. Even sometimes I want to give up day to day. It's okay, right? But the one thing I know right now is that if there's anybody that needs to be on that stage, it's going to end up holding a trophy. It's going to be me, or it's going to be one of you guys, because we put in the work, we believe in ourselves, and we are more than able to take feedback from others and able to take everything around us and put it into something great. So that's why at the end of the day, I was happy to do this with you, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Oh, brother, I mean, I'm full league. I'm gonna ask you for a part two because I feel robbed, dog. You're one of my favorite. Like genuinely, not to blaze too hard, not to boing too much, but you're one of my favorite, dog.
Just bounce.
You're
Just
absolutely
bounce.
a dog
Just
within the
bounce.
same man. You some of your things you've talked about as far as taking players that aren't the most well known, aren't the most established players. My entire year four was that. My entire year four, I turned my wheels. I was like, hey man, are you sure you're ready for a finalist team? Are you sure you're ready to play for Pro League? If so, go prove it. Go get some day one players, some guys who it's their first year in comp. Let's make them semifinalists. Let's make them finalists. Let's build those guys up. Let's start brick by brick and lay the foundation for players. And let's see how successful you are at that before you're even talking to these finalist teams, before you're even pushing yourself to these boundaries. Let's make sure you can do this first, you know?
Let's make sure
So,
you
like,
get the practice in it first. But I also would say,
exactly.
I'd also say to that, right? It's good that you're doing that. I think it's important for the experience. But I also would say, when you can, aim for the stars, because you never know what you're going to get. You know, in these situations that I've been in, as I just said, I never knew what I was going to get. I was just going to aim for what I could, right? And just so that last part to that, you know, Jen, Onmu, and Deeds, they all vouched for me on my LFT post. I want to just say that they're all incredible players. They all have so much talent, and I loved working with them so much. Obviously, Vane, Aiden, and Reeds too. They had, you know, everybody has their weak points as a player. Everybody has their strengths. But what I can say with every player, whether it's Oxygen, whether it was Glitch, whether it was, you know, KCP, whether it was even old Aqualix, whether it was Bearclaw, you
Mm-hmm.
know, sure, some practices and some politics fucking suck. Okay.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I've enjoyed everything that I have done, and I've enjoyed working with all those players. And I know that there's somewhere in them, at least I hope so, that they enjoyed working with me, whether I had experience at the time or not. That's a big thing I would always hope for, even with that. You might obviously want to bring these teams to here and bring these teams to there. Sometimes you want to make sure you're looking at it more like the stepping stone team, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the end all be all. We have to be careful of where we put things, where what eggs we put into what baskets, with respect to everything our career, right? I would have done certain things differently that people would have not liked on some of my rosters if I maybe pushed harder or had more control over certain things, right? But the way that I see that is, if I had, you know, there could have been some issues with it. But business is business. I want to make sure that I pick the team that I know is going to do well, that is going to work well with me, and that will serve the purpose for what it is. Love and friendship is everything, sure, but at the same time, you have to keep a balance. Especially when you're a coach, you have to kind of act in a certain way as a manager to your team. I more so like to, you know, lead rather than manage per se, but that's a very big thing. We have to also draw the line that there is a business to what we do,
Yeah.
and people may not necessarily like the decisions that we make, and that's unfortunate. But let it be known that any decision that I've ever tried to make, or a decision that I've ever made, anything like that, and I hope you guys follow suit with this, or if you're not already, which I'm sure you are. If somebody's got to get cut, somebody's got to get cut off the team. If somebody has to, you know, if we have to move orgs, then we move orgs. If things have to happen, then we adapt to what they are. But we make sure that we're respected, that we're treated correctly, and that everybody that we work with knows that at the end of the day, it just didn't work out for it not working out. And that's all right.
Heard
I
that.
love that, baby. I have one last question to put a bow on it. I realize we're probably, what, 2 hours and 10, 15 minutes deep at this
Mm.
point, so I'm gonna put a bow on my questions. That way I'm not taking up too much time for you, brother. Um, Obviously, for us, what's next for us is this LGS Open and lining ourselves up for that and getting our preparations for that done. What's next for you, brother? What's the big challenge that you're looking forward to climbing the mountain on next?
Right now, the challenge that I look at is just making sure I get that PL team. It really doesn't like anybody who's been in that LAN environment that's going to be in this pro league. There's obviously winners, right? There's obviously big winners that I know if I were to coach that team, I can make that team win, right? I could take the trophy home. I know that it's more possible. And then there's the teams that I know are going to need some work to get to the middle of the pack. And then I know there's the ones that are sort of middle of the pack. My goal right now, obviously, I'm shooting more for the middle of the pack and the winning teams. That's what I really want and what I really need. But I find myself in the position, although it is unfortunate, that I need to be able to prove myself again. As much as I literally just did everything that I've ever done, there's not enough eyes on me. There's not enough vouchers that are going to make the difference. I need to be able to network, reach out, and just do what I got to do. So my goal, get into this pro league. That's my main focus right now. Afterwards, I'll deal with what I got to deal with. But what I know is I want to get into this pro league. I want to do well. And that's about it for me.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and call my shot for you right now. ALGS Open, first place winner. Insert org name here. Coach Psykho. Roster to be determined. Go ahead and call that shot for you now, big dog. The last question I have for you, man, is just what's your opinion on Roster Mania? Out of all the leaks we have, of all the players that are LFT, who's your perfect roster? If you don't feel like you have time to take with that on, man, no worries. But
I wouldn't say that it's I won't name teams. I did list out the teams that I wanted to work with, and I did DM as much as I could of them individually and find things, but I won't leak necessarily anything there. But what I can say is, as I said, there's teams that are winners and there's teams that are middle of the pack and teams sort of on the bottom. But at the end of the day, no matter what I work with, I know that it's going to be great. But I appreciate you asking, of course, and
Of course,
I appreciate the praise.
have to, brother. Like I said, feel free to say fuck off. I keep that private for now, but also I gotta try and poke a little bit. You know what I mean, man? You're a big free agent, brother. This is a land coach right here, third place at land.
Yeah, that's why I had to move to Apex South, because I knew this guy was LFT taking up all the jobs. So Apex South, I came.
Hey, I mean, good luck to everybody. You know, whether it's a player or whether it's a coach and whatnot. The one thing that I want everybody to take into account here that's watching or what I've said or whatever. I'm sure somewhere along the line I've probably burned one bridge or two, but this is what I'll say. If that person's really that offended, whatever, let that bridge be burned. But what I can say, because it's probably not that important, but what I can say is this: no matter the team, no matter the player, no matter who's LFT right now, anybody that I've worked with that I've heard of in the community, know this from me. I don't hate anybody. I don't disrespect anybody. There might be shit talk here and there, just like there is anybody to say anything. But there is nobody in this community, nobody in this scene that I would just say, you're terrible, I would never want to work with you, or, for example, like the time that I did work with you, you were terrible, whatever. There are things that have been said to me that have been nasty, that have been terrible, that have been said about me, whatever. But I'm not here to keep that cycle of negative energy. At the end of the day, I respect everybody that's part of our community.
Love that, brother.
110%.
Great answer.
All right, boys. I'm gonna go back on vacation. I so very much appreciate you, Pimp, for stopping by and talking to these fine young men. I'm sorry I missed out on it. I want you to come back for part 2, and I'm gonna grill you this part 2. All right, I'm coming with the questions this part 2, dog.
Sure.
If you accept it, I'm bringing the heat. With that being said, though, I appreciate everybody for showing up to Roll Stream. Thank you very, very much, Psykho. God bless you, brother. And I can't wait to see you on land stage soon. Can't wait to compete against you at ALGS Open.
Much love to all of you. Much love to the Apex community. Let's do it.
Peace, guys. I'm out.
Later.
See ya.
That does it, ladies and gentlemen. The official episode has been complete. Thank you guys so much for watching. Everyone check out Psykho. If you guys didn't see the tweets already, I'll make sure to plug all his social information. You guys get all that. Psykho, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, all at Real Psykho. Medify.gg as well. I offer coaching. That's also Real Psykho. And yeah, video coming out soon on some coaching stuff in the next 2 days or so. And I will see you guys there. Thank you very much for the support. And thank you, really, for letting me be on the cast.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming, honestly. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for episode 9 of the Coach Mo Podcast. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.